Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. The show is about to begin.
Presented by Front Yard Fantasy. I'm your host, Simon. Joined as always by my wildly handsome co-host, John Luke Garofalo. What's up, everyone? Happy Monday and welcome into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my co-hosts, John Luke Garofalo and Andrew Cooper. Did you guys have a good weekend?
Oh, yeah. How about you guys?
Was that more Kool-Aid Man? Oh, yeah? Or more
yeah.
That was a little more Kool-Aid Man right there. I had a very Kool-Aid weekend as well.
Very Kool-Aid. What flavor? Red, blue, purple, and nobody better come in the chat and tell me that we don't talk about Kool-Aid flavors as colors. I understand with Gatorade. I'm willing to accept the Gatorade argument, but Kool-Aid, like those flavors are the colors.
Yeah. No, it was red. It was classic. It was classic
100%.
red.
I knew it. Well, guys, we got a lot to talk about today. The Combine went down this weekend, which means the offseason is in full swing. Before we get into that, though, we got a poem in here from Tommy Brighton early this morning. Good morning, Tommy. Welcome in. Tommy in the chat with the QBs at the Combine proved there is no clear number one. Richardson is fast and Levi's arm is a gun. Free agent frenzy is about to begin. Some teams will lose and very few will win. The Saints cleared some room and are working the cap. Sorry, Jets fans. Looks like Lamar is a wrap. Poor Ravens fans, it is almost abusive. Tagging Lamar with a tag that is non-exclusive. As March Madness on these brackets will be gaga. It's going to be madness. I'm still picking Gonzaga. You know I am a Raiders fan and something ain't right. I think that was Kelsey on Saturday night. Darren Waller got married and landed himself a peach. He got married to Plum, putting Simon's dream out of reach. Congrats, Darren Waller. I mean, a little weird that my invite wasn't in the mail. It must have gotten lost on the way over here. I did move, but
That's hilarious that Tommy would mention that because Ani Koopy sent me this text. She goes, my hunky Waller got married yesterday to one of my favorite pro WNBA players. Good for him. She's great. Then she added a follow-up text. Simon will be very depressed tomorrow. I think he got the hearts for DW. Haha, with a bunch of emojis after that.
Well, Ani Coop has me read like a book. That was the first thing I said after hearing that news.
That was
Ani
funny.
Coop. Plugged into the league, plugged into our lives, plugged into the show.
She knows, dude. She's a mega fan, super fan. Darren Waller, super fan. Simon, super fan. She knows what's hot right now.
So hot right now.
Simon,
She's the one, Ani Coop. She's the one who discovered Hansel. So hot right now.
So hot. Yeah, took him to the top.
Just unbelievably hot. Well, guys, it is that time of morning. I hope you brought something to munch on, something to consume this morning for breakfast, because we got everything else. We got the stories. We got the topics. You just got to bring a little something to eat.
Got a bagel, got a fresh pineapple. Oh, JL Sabub with some breakfast today.
What?
Look at him go.
I'm going to kick us off with a story this morning, guys, because it's been living in my head since I read this weekend. It is one of the more bizarre pieces of news, if you can even call it that has come out of this NFL Combine. There was a tweet from Infante talking about Will Levis and a legitimate concern that NFL teams have with him as he's coming into the league. The tweet said, a legitimate concern NFL teams have with Kentucky QB Will Levis is his deathly fear of milk. I've been told he screams in terror at even the sight of milk, let alone the taste. It impedes his daily tasks, source said. I'm worried how he'll fit in an NFL program. You guys see that quote?
Yeah, I did see that quote, and I've had a difficult time figuring out if it's true or not, because when I try to search
Screams?
for it,
Me too.
I
can't find anything else.
Screams at milk at the sight of milk. That's
every
absurd.
time I try Every time I try and search for that to get real answers, another story comes up about him putting mayo in his coffee, and I get distracted right away.
Now that one, I looked further into that, Coop, because we had the same journey here on Discovery of like, what the hell are they even talking about? Apparently, the way people are saying it is that he puts mayonnaise in his coffee when in reality, he put mayo in his coffee one time on like a dare that he put on a video and said it was all right. Said it wasn't as bad as you would think or something.
Totally different situation.
But the milk thing, I can find nothing else to back it up, but it came from like not the Onion, right? Like it came from an official source. So
great name for a media outlet, by the way.
Do you think this is an attempt by a team to leak some information to push them down the draft board?
But why that information? They settle on scared of the sight of milk.
Why didn't they fall on like drugs or something?
Yeah, or like I don't know, a gas mask or something.
The gas mask worked in the past. The thing is, if he is afraid of milk, though, I feel like that would be a huge red flag.
That'd be a problem. Like if this is true, and now other teams know, you legitimately couldn't draft him. Being terrified of milk would make someone undraftable because I bet there's milk in an NFL stadium somewhere.
I bet you they just other teams just are putting in full glasses at the on the field. They just leave it strategically on their sideline.
Will Levis lines up, looks up, and there's Christian Wilkins with a freaking milk mustache, like all the way. Like
he said there'd be no milk. You said there'd be no milk.
You just picture him you can't hear him through the broadcast, but you just see his face. He's like,
just panicking.
Just freaking out. Scream. Oh my God.
His first NFL game, you just hear, got milk from the crowd until he runs off the field crying.
He goes straight into the medical tent.
I hope
my feelings are hurt.
Like most rumors, I desperately hope that's true.
I found nothing to say otherwise. I could find no video of him not being scared of milk. So, Will Levis,
policy.
Balls
Nor
in your
policy.
court.
Policy on the show, of course.
Court.
All rumors are true until proven false. So.
All rumors are proven true until false.
All rumors are immediately 100% true.
I read that headline this weekend, and I feel like I just like moved past it, and then it was one of those ones where like two headlines later, I was like, "What the hell did I just read?" and scrolled back up to it. Thought for sure it was a joke. Thought for sure the next tweet from that account was going to be, "Just kidding, you guys are idiots." I was seeing who would believe anything that I put on my Twitter.
Yeah, pretty important stuff. NKC rules in the chat. NKC, what up this morning?
Welcome in, NKC.
Good morning.
Glad to have you here, my friend.
Yeah. Did you want to do some combine talk, or should we get the rest of the news out of the way first?
News. It's your breakfast.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We've only done the show 133 times, so whatever you think you want to bring up, we can talk about.
We'll do some news, and then we'll do a little combine talk at some point. So I saw that Deshaun Watson, who currently has the worst contract in the history of the league, and it is making things difficult for other teams. It's a contract so bad that is leaking into other organizations and ruining their organizations. He says that now he is open to restructuring his contract, and that there are certain players or people that if they were going to bring these guys in and his contract was the thing holding them back, that he'd be willing to restructure that, which I think a lot of teams, the teams franchising guys like Daniel Jones and Lamar Jackson, they're probably looking at that and saying, I guess they're acknowledging that contract isn't that good, and we're not going to pay Lamar Jackson that, right?
Yeah, Lamar Jackson's probably the most notable of those names, but he won't be the only one. He certainly won't be the last one who gets affected by this contract.
Yeah. The entire contract is fully guaranteed. That's the crazy part. Like $240 million. Nobody else has over $200 million guaranteed. It's just so out of line with what anyone else is getting.
Yeah, in case he said Deshaun would not get a good contract. I don't know. I think he would do all right. I think he would do all right on the open market. I don't think that he's going to make it there, though. I think this is just potentially maybe something he's putting out as, this is coming from Kay Abbott, so pretty reputable source, Brown's source there.
I mean,
100%.
it makes sense, right? You assume these players want to compete. There's holes on this team. They weren't competitive this year, and it didn't look like they were a healthy and in shape Deshaun Watson away from being a true playoff contender. When you look at that roster, and it kind of looks like maybe they should be, right? Like this Browns team looks good on paper. They need to add another piece in the secondary. They've got a couple holes on offense. Another wide receiver would be great, but something wasn't clicking. And Deshaun Watson may be saying, hey, like, I understand I have one of the largest guaranteed contracts or the largest guaranteed contract in NFL history. Maybe it can slip down to number 2 and how much I'm actually bringing home this year if it'll help this team be better. It's the difference between 50 and 45.
Maybe he's trying to avoid a Russell Wilson type situation there in Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
That massive of a contract, that puts a lot on his shoulders in terms of if he doesn't perform, everybody's gonna be looking at him.
Yeah, how the hell are people freaking out about Russell Wilson's contract? But $50 million a year is fine the other way, right? $250 million guaranteed, and they're like, Russell Wilson got an office. Sean Watson got a $250 million fully guaranteed contract.
That's a really good point.
That makes it absurd.
I think in general, it's easier to make fun of Russell Wilson because it's harmless. You know what I mean? Whereas the Deshaun Watson stuff is like, it's not
the opposite of harmless.
It's easy. It's a lot more fun to make fun of like Subway commercials and like too many bathrooms in your house.
That's rad.
And the Let's Ride stuff.
Overuse of a slogan or catchphrase.
And just now I realized that I could have just named 10 different things. That's why Russell Wilson's so great.
Couldn't be better.
He's doing fine. He's rich and he's married to a pop star, so we can make fun of him a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Tommy said Browns ruined it for everyone again. When did they ruin it for everybody the first time?
Just general existence, maybe.
Just being there.
I mean, the year they drafted Johnny Manziel, they probably ruined TV broadcasts for a month because that's all they could talk about. That was it. Maybe that's the last time they ruined it. Oh, when they moved. I wasn't aware of football when they moved.
I don't think I was either.
Yeah,
I don't know if I was born. Yeah, I was born. Late 90s?
Something like that.
It feels old timey, but yeah, like I always forget that when you think about some of these teams, like the Panthers and Texans actually haven't been around that long. Those franchises are just a little over 20 years old. Like you think that these teams have all been around for a long time. They kind of haven't.
No, they're brand new. They're just little baby teams out there trying to make it in this world. Kicked out of the home a little bit too early. But hopefully they can get it done.
Yeah. The interesting thing, did you guys see the John Jones fight?
No.
Yeah, so John Jones won the fight, and then shortly after, somebody asked him, and then he said that his brother Chandler could be a top MMA fighter. Which it's funny that he says that. In the past, Chandler Jones has said that John Jones is the best athlete in the family, and he could be an NFL player. So these guys kind of pumping each other up a little bit. But you think Chandler Jones could hold his own in the ring?
Probably. Man, that massive.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
I feel like just being on an NFL team outside of being like a kicker immediately puts you into the category of like you could probably survive an MMA fight.
Yo, and I'm not messing with too many of those kickers.
Some of those kickers are pretty big, dude. Some of those kickers are pretty big.
Like I hear what you're saying,
some of them
but
are surprisingly skinny too.
I think you throw some of those kickers in there, and we're gonna get some surprising results when they take a dude down.
Justin Tucker kick you to the head.
I mean, they got the motion down for the ultimate nut kick, right? Like the kicker's motion.
Is that allowed in MMA?
If a kicker's out there, I think you got to give him.
If a kicker's out there, it's some sort of handicap.
Like if freaking Goggles is walking out there, they're gonna be like, "All right, you're allowed 2 nut shots, but no more than 1 around. Fight!"
I mean, dude, my buddy does like Muay Thai. He kicked me in the back of the leg once, dude. You're not lasting very long if you're taking kicker kicks to the leg. It only takes.
I got some Muay Thais in Hawaii. They were delicious.
I did a Muay Thai yesterday. It was pretty much just alcohol.
That sounds like not a Muay Thai.
Yeah, I did a glass of liquor yesterday.
I think they forgot the other stuff.
I had a strawberry daiquiri yesterday. Hold the strawberry, and it was just rum. I had a glass of rum.
Have a vodka neat.
NKC said Cameron Dickerson would be a menace in the ring.
True.
Get him out there. Which
Cameron
kicker? You gotta pick one NFL player that if you beat in an MMA fight, you get $1 million. Who are
Mason Rudolph, easy.
Yeah, I think he's kind of tall.
$1 million. Good.
I don't think I'm picking a quarterback. He's 6'5", JL.
That's so much taller than I thought.
Like the thing is, even the
5 a B.
Even going for the smaller players, like they'd still probably beat me up. Like I was gonna pick Rondell Moore, but I mean Rondell Moore.
Oh, he'll wreck you, dude.
I think I'll take Hunter Renfrow, and it'll probably just be one of those fights where like we both punch at exactly the same time and then fall backwards.
I thought you'd do one of the maneuvers where you both go for the headlock, and then you're both just sitting there wrestling.
That's another option. You know, it could go either way, but those are the only two ways it could go.
And then you spin around a bunch of times and separate, and everyone's like, "Oh no, which one's the real Hunter Renfrow?"
And suddenly, I have a bag of grapes in my hand.
And grapes just like flooding out of the openings of your pants.
Before I realize what's going on, I realize this is Hunter Renfro's finishing move. I've got the grapes.
He draws his power from the grapes.
Oh no!
Yeah, the move is called the Grapes of Wrath.
He's like, you should know, never to eat another man's grapes.
We'll have to draw an X on your forehead before the fight so we can keep track of you. There was a player at the combine yesterday that even my wife was like, "Ooh, he's just a little guy." I think his name's Deuce Vaughn. He also has kind of a little guy name as well, 5'5". Deuce Vaughn is kind of a little guy name, is it not? Like,
hey guys, it's me, Deuce.
Deuce.
Yeah, but
is Deuce a nickname? No,
you undersold a little bit. He's the smallest person ever recorded at the combine, if I'm not mistaken. Shortest.
All right, that's the guy I'm fighting.
Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah.
You telling me no kids went to the combine?
Well, the shortest athlete invited to the NFL combine ever measured. Not the shortest person in attendance.
You telling me this is adult only?
Wait, we could just fight kids that go to the combine? That's what I'm picking.
Yeah. Thomas. I'm sure there's the person under 12 named Thomas at the combine. That's who I'm fighting.
There always is.
He's there with his dad.
Thomas Lamas.
It was a dream come true.
Dude, 5'5" is wild. 5'5" means he could probably run under like the lineman's feet. I mean, their legs, not their feet specifically.
How big was Darren Sproles? He was looked.
He was like 5'7", yeah.
I think.
I don't think he's 5'5".
He would tower over this guy.
5'5" is absurdly small.
Yeah, he's 6'6", 190.
Yo, but
okay, so
when I see this, I am cheering for Deuce Vaughn so hard.
Yeah,
because I love every little piece of proof that a little guy can do it in the NFL. We love a short king, and that's what Deuce Vaughn is about to be for everyone if he kills it. Deuce
Vaughn's such a scrappy do name.
It is a scrappy do name. It really is. I'm pulling for him though.
I'm all right with it.
Yeah, did you guys watch any of the combine this weekend?
Yeah.
I didn't watch much of it live, but I went back and watched a bunch of the highlights, read the articles, read the highlights, but I didn't watch too much of it live action.
Yeah, I watched a good amount of it. Honestly, this was the craziest part was I was watching with my family because we were down here. And at one point, we're watching the running back drills where they like take the bags and kind of move them, and you got to like move on the spot. And we're watching it, and my mom, with this one guy goes, and my mom just goes, "Wow," and I was like, "What?" And she goes, "That guy was smooth." And I looked up and I was like,
CJ Stroud.
It was CJ Stroud. And I was like, "You know who that is, right?" And she's like, "I have no idea." It was Bijan Robinson. So even my mom was watching these guys go through the drills, and when Bijan went through, she was like, "Oh wow, like that guy is good." So that's the level this guy's operating on. Even my mom, without knowing who it was, saw this guy and she was like, "Whoa," which he kind of was like, "Whoa" yesterday. Did you see he was supposed to run like a 4.5? People were saying higher than that. Runs a 4.46, man. And somebody, I think it was Thor Nystrom, pulled the 10-yard splits. His 10-yard split was like top 3, like his first 10 yards running. So, which is more important than the 40, honestly, right? Like how often you actually running for 40 yards. So this guy, he went out there, said he was going to compete, and he did.
Yeah, he showed up and secured his spot as the first running back off the board, probably.
Yeah.
I know there's some excitement around some of these other guys. Like Jahmyr Gibbs ran fast, but that was expected, right? We expected him to be the fastest back in this class. He ran a 4.36, but Bijan coming out, his plus, the reason he was getting drafted as the first running back wasn't because he had 4.4 speed. People expected him to have 4.5 speed, like you said, Coop, but he comes out, runs sub 4.5, did nothing but show us, hey, like those Saquon Barkley comps, the greatest prospects in Saquon Barkley, maybe you're right. Maybe you weren't kidding. Maybe I am.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see where he goes now, because that kind of speed tacked onto the frame that he's got could bump him up to the middle of the first round, which is looking like what he wanted.
He's number one, and I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs kind of solidified himself as number two. Yep. He looked great. And, I mean, the comps to Alvin Kamara, like when you watch him play, it feels like a pretty good comp. Like he has the same like low center of gravity, good patience. Like I think he's going to be a great player. Part of me, the NFL fan part of me wants the Patriots to take him and have him be the next James White, but the fantasy football fan in me does not want that to happen.
Yeah, I would not like that as a fantasy football manager, adding him to the mess over there. Just ruin Ramondre Stevenson and Jahmyr Gibbs in one fell swoop. God, that's so Bill Belichick.
It would be, yeah.
Just to take the joy and just be like,
exactly.
Suck it into a fantasy points vacuum down here in Boston.
Nobody gets to have any fun, dude. It would be, but it would be perfect for that like 2011 offense that Bill O'Brien ran. He would be Kevin Falk. That's who he would be. I'd rather have him go to the Dolphins and be Alvin Kamara too.
2.0,
3.0, 2.1.
There was a kid at my high school who thought he was a professional rapper. And he used to always scream, "It's 2.0, y'all," when walking down the hallways. Just as like dweeby ass white kid running down the hallways of my high school screaming, "It's 2.0, y'all."
You ain't wrong.
I was like, indeed, it finally.
Like,
someone else is talking about it. 1.0's in the past.
Can we start saying
it's
that?
It's the sequel.
Anytime somebody calls a player, Calvin Johnson 2.0, we definitely got to start saying it's 2.0, y'all.
I'm just imagining us doing that. And then one day this kid, and he's like, "What the hell? Is that my high school rap tagline?"
This jerk
looks up, recognizes my face. It's like, what the hell? That nerd from high school, that orchestra nerd from my high school stole my rap persona.
That cellist.
That cellist.
Just being a battle cellist, and you're like, it's 2.0, yo. Is that what the cello sounds like?
Exactly what the cello sounds like. Coop, you brought up the Patriots and some moves you want them to make. I saw a potential move by the Patriots brought up by JPA Football. So that there's rumors that the Raiders are trying to acquire quarterback Mac Jones. This is per Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. However, Jones is not likely available for trade. But there's rumors that the Raiders may go out of their way to try to get him over there on that team, which is, Jalen, I feel like, if I'm not crazy, you've brought up before, like Mac Jones as a fit for the Raiders.
Can't remember if I did, but it's easy connection to draw there with the whole McDaniel connection.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. Like you see it every once in a while with like Jared Goff going with the guy who was the head scout when he got drafted, right, to the Lions. And, obviously look at McDaniel over with the Dolphins. It's basically the 49ers 2.0, right? He brought everybody over there with him. So
it's 2.0, y'all.
2.0, that is Jeff Wilson showing up in Miami.
Imagine Josh McDaniel walking into the Vegas facility like that.
As Mac Jones gets off the plane, you just hear Josh McDaniels from the background. It's 2.0, y'all.
Yeah, I can see Jonathan Gannon doing that.
The minute that Derek Carr left, Josh McDaniel just started going around with 2.0, y'all.
You know what time it is, right, Buzz? 2.0.
He's like, the name's no longer Coach. The name is Coach, the sequel. And then he walks out of the room.
I don't want to hear any of that 1.0 garbage.
I'm just saying, Coach 2.0, kind of a dope nickname.
Coach 2.0.
I feel like we're
That's
just
whoever becomes Prime's rival. It's going to be Prime versus 2.0.
Prime
Prime
versus
versus
2.0
Coach 2.0.
pay-per-view.
That sounds like one of those like terrible beef roll movies that are terrible on purpose, like Crocosaurus
Or, like,
versus Velocipaster.
Oh man, that's a good one. Or like two washed up, like, retired guys doing like a UFC fight.
Rocky 7,
Yeah.
2.0, y'all.
2.0 versus Prime.
2.0 versus
God, this is beautiful.
Why do I
Good
feel like
stuff.
we did like we just made the Josh McDaniel Ted Lasso comp? It's 2.0, y'all.
It's 2.0, y'all. Yeah, so I enjoyed the combine. The tight ends, man, I feel like I have more questions now than I had before after the tight ends. It got smoothed out. I wanted Michael Meyer to run faster than he did. 4.7 is like he's in that Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry kind of range, maybe a little faster than those guys. The problem with those guys is that you need to get absolutely peppered with targets if you're going to run like a 4.7. Like if you look at Zach Ertz, think of how many targets that guy got. Consistently 100
10.
plus every year. 10. Like he consistently got 100 plus every year, and he only cracked 1,000 yards one time in his career. At 28, he needed 156 targets to crack 1,000 yards because he runs like a 4.7. He doesn't give you any yak. He doesn't give you that extra burst. So that's the problem that I have with Michael Meyer now is that I wanted him to at least run like a 4.6. I don't know, 4.65, 4.6 anything. 4.69 would have made me feel better than 4.7. So I'm a little worried about him. He's probably still going to be the top tight end, but I don't know. Disappointing, to say the least.
The tight end guy is a sad tight end guy. After that, this week.
I know. And Darnell Washington, he like in one drill he'd look amazing, and the next drill he would look like a tackle, right? So I don't even know now. Like he made that crazy one-handed catch. He moved the sled like he was opening a fridge. Like he was just like, let's get this out of the. Like everybody else is like, "Argh!" He gets up there. He's just like, let's move this out of the way. All right. Was that the drill? What's next?
Every time we talk about like a player looking bad in one of these drills, I think back to, and I saw it reposted on Reddit this weekend as well. I forget the player, but the guy who during the combine, he was a secondary player. He runs out there and he looks the wrong direction and then just gets drilled in the head by the ball. Teron Johnson, is that who it was?
I don't know who it was, but I know the clip you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking? Yeah, it's Teron Johnson. And now Teron Johnson's like successful in the NFL over there on the Bills. He's a great player. But whenever you think of the combine, like he went out there and he looked the wrong way and got drilled in the head with a ball. If you look at a drill and they don't do what you think they're going to do, and you look back at tape and you see them execute on that, don't hold it against them from the combine. It's one day of practice. We're more looking for the things like you said, Coop, like that 4.7 speed. That's an indicator. There's a threshold. Or like Jahmyr Gibbs going sub 4.4, Bijan Robinson going sub 4.5. That's a threshold we were looking for. But if Bijan would have come in and run a 4.9, we would have been like, oh, something happened. Something's up. Like, throw that number out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. 4.9 would have been crazy. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, you can make mistakes, but if consistently across all the drills it doesn't look right, then that's another thing. But yeah, Darnell, he just had a couple where I didn't love it, and a couple where I really did. So I don't really know what to do with that guy now. Luke Musgrave looked good though. Dalton Kincaid didn't work out. Those are the top 4. So that's a little tight end talk for you.
A little tight end talk bright and early in the morning.
Yeah, we got to talk about the big news that has everyone going crazy in the combine. Anthony Richardson. What'd you boys think? Look at JL's got a little smirk
That
going
boy's
there.
fast as fudge, boy. He is. That is a fast man. It didn't quite click for me how absurd it was until they put his numbers next to Cam Newton's from the combine. Right? They took this man's numbers and put it next to Cam Newton, and there were areas where Anthony Richardson had Cam Newton beat.
Didn't they do the whole ghost race thing?
Yeah, they did. Taysom Hill got smoked.
Didn't he destroy Cam Newton in the 40?
They put the Florida quarterbacks up there. So it was they put Taysom Hill, Cam Newton, and Anthony Richardson up there. And
Anthony Richardson smoked them all. Yeah.
And Taysom Hill got dusted. Taysom Hill wasn't even on the screen by the end of it.
I'm not sure it matters if he can throw. Like if the dude can, Well, we already know it doesn't matter if Taysom Hill. That hypothesis confirmed. Now we gotta figure out the same hypothesis with Anthony Richardson, because if he can move like that and just keep him somewhat honest in the passing game, he's a legit NFL quarterback. We've seen that be successful.
Yeah, and people like to use, like, it kind of annoys me that people make the joke of like, oh well, like, he's played tight end. Like, don't, like, that's not a joke. We've seen that now multiple times with players where, like, Terrell Pryor was drafted as a quarterback. He was okay, but didn't really work out. But he had a 1,000-yard season as a wide receiver. Yeah. Like, Logan Thomas had a top 3 season as a tight end. He was drafted as a quarterback as well. I mean, Julian Edelman kind of never played quarterback, but he was a great wide receiver. So, I mean, it isn't crazy to draft this crazy athlete. And if he works out as a quarterback, great. If not, like, they put his numbers next to Kyle Pitts, and it's like the same. Like, this dude is like Kyle Pitts, except like a couple inches short. Like, he weighs 240. This guy's a 6'4", 240, and a 4.44. You can find a spot for that guy. Like, have that guy returning kicks. You know what I mean? Like,
it doesn't matter what sport, like any league would be like, yes, on my team, please. Like, we'll figure it out. I don't care if he's never touched this sport in his life. We'll make it happen.
I think about it. It's like, say you're the Lions, right? And you draft him, and your plan is to do what the Chiefs did. Like, the Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes. They started Alex Smith, though, because he was a starter. Alex Smith had a Pro Bowl year in Patrick Mahomes' rookie season. He went to the Pro Bowl. He had his best statistical season, right? And then they realized that Mahomes is going to be the starter moving forward. If the Lions do something like that and they start Jared Goff, I feel like you got to find ways to get this guy on the field just for a couple gadget plays or something, right? Like, he is electric.
Yeah.
Makes him in.
No, absolutely.
Go out there, right?
I'm not sure I'm buying the number 1 overall talk that's getting thrown out there, but I am buying that it's going to go QB, or that we'll see 3 QBs in the top 5, maybe not 1, 2, 3. I'm not buying the first overall over these 2 guys that have been hyped up all year, though. I get it. If it happens, I'm not going to be shocked, but I wouldn't put money on it.
I'm rooting for it. Because one of the guys from the Happy Hour crew, friend of the show, Anand Nanduri, has a 80-1 ticket he bought a while back in Vegas for Anthony Richardson 1 overall.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
It doesn't matter how much money you put down on 80-1. That's a nice bet. So like I'm rooting for it. Yeah.
The Kevin Malone strategy. If someone gives you 10,000 to 1 odds on anything, you take it.
Yeah.
Who was the guy he said was going to win the Oscar? John Malkovich. He said, if John Malkovich ever wins an Oscar, I'm going to be a very rich man.
That is funny, dude.
John Malkovich. I forgot about that line. That's hilarious.
You gotta take it, dude.
Kevin, whenever I do rewatches of The Office, there's 2 characters that, like, I feel like kind of slid under the radar for me the first time. Like, I knew they were funny, but I didn't realize how funny. Kevin and Kelly. Those 2, the 2 Ks. Whenever I rewatch, they are the 2 that make me laugh the hardest, the most consistently. I love both of them.
Good characters, yeah. Kelly's especially a good character when you realize that, like, she actually wrote some of those episodes. Like, yeah. So she's a funny girl, man.
Yeah, that's enough office talk for today. We'll pick it back up tomorrow.
Yeah. I also, from the quarterback group, people have been talking about it a little bit, but did you guys see Will Levis throwing the deep balls? Yeah, he's afraid of milk. But dude, he was absolutely chucking the ball. He had a couple balls that traveled like 70 yards in the air. He got a cannon. He had an absolute cannon. Now I understand why some of the other quarterbacks didn't want to do those drills, because you don't want to go up next to that guy with a trebuchet for an arm. My goodness.
What, just the velocity behind it?
No, so he did well in the velocity drills as well, but they just have you basically throw it as far as you can to receivers, and he was hitting them
in the mountains. Try to hit them
over. He was throwing them up over the mountains. But basically, yeah, you like drop back to like the 10-yard line or so and throw it as far as you can. He was throwing it from the 10-yard line to the other 30 in the air easily.
Jeez.
Yeah, he was chucking that. So Will Levis, he's got that going for you. If you're a team that wants the big, strong quarterback, that's the boy.
I saw a quote this weekend. I can't remember. I thought it was Anthony Richardson, but now they're telling this. I'm maybe misremembering, but either Anthony Richardson or Will Levis came out and said, I don't care if it hurts when you catch the ball I throw. I'm going to throw it as hard as I can or something along those lines. But I'm having a hard time remembering if it was Richardson or Levis. But we got some cannons in this draft. And Coop, yeah, if you watch a guy chuck it, like 70 yards in the air, you probably don't want to go up like, yeah, I'm next here.
Yeah.
Scoot up a little bit.
Yeah, give me next, dude.
Come in 10 yards, please. We got Bettor in the chat wanting to know, Coop, what hole is that behind you? And how did
That's number 8. It's a par 4.
That is the 9th hole. And
dang, that's close.
Good try, dude. Yeah, 9th hole, it's a par 5. And I actually spent quite a long time on that hole.
If you're gonna live on a hole in a golf course, you gotta do a par 5.
Yeah.
You can get you can get lost in that bad boy. You know what I mean? Like people are gonna forget about you. You're in the a bend of a par 5.
Yeah, you can hang out. Yeah, this is a good spot. It's kind of hard. I mean, this spot still gets hit by golf balls because the hole's right there, but it's kind of a nice angle where it's got to be a real bad shot to get this house. And plus, they put the sand trap right there, so that it kind of deters people from hitting in this direction.
You ever get a golf ball through the window?
The windows are made out of some like golf resistant thing, but if you look closely at some of the windows, you can tell there would have been balls coming through.
Really? There's some marks?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Ouch.
So yeah, but I'm not a great golfer. I'm one of those guys that is capable of hitting a good shot, right? Where like I'll hit one and people will be like, "You hit that?" I'm like, "Yeah, there you go." You know, most of them are bad, but every once in a while it's good, and that's what keeps me going out there.
I think I'm a similar way, Coop. Maybe a little bit more on like the like I played a decent amount growing up, but definitely not consistent. But I'll have shots where I'm just like, dang, and other shots I'm like, oh dang.
Oh no, yeah. My dad's favorite saying is same guy. So
same guy.
You come out, hit a bad. I'll hit a bad shot, and then I'll hit a good one next, and he'll look at me and go, same guy.
Same guy. I like that. I'm definitely gonna start seeing that.
He also likes saying the best 2 balls I hit all day was when I stepped on a rake.
Nice. See a ball behind you in the mulch. Is that a ball? Can you confirm? All right, underneath the door handle in the middle of the door. It's like directly underneath that.
I don't know. No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm gonna have to.
It looks like a golf ball. I'm with you. Bettor.
Oh, no, it's not. I picked up a ball out there every day I've been here. So
every single day. So you're going home with like a suitcase full of golf balls.
Got like 4 already. Yeah, I'm loading up. I'm loading up. I lost more balls than that. I'm still down. I'm still in the red.
I'm still down.
We got Adam Weber in the chat. Happy daytime.
What up, Adam? Welcome in. And we got Hal in chat. So would you rather live on an exclusive high-end golf course or just a decent hometown course?
Well, if I wouldn't have to leave, if I could just stay in my hometown and live on a golf course and not have to move, that's what I would do. Because I'm not going to just move away from all my friends and family to play at a better golf course. So
what's give me the downside of playing an exclusive high-end course?
I think the implication is that you have to move away from your current town
to go to the new upgrade.
You have to leave. And Tommy says exclusive all day. Come visit me. There you go.
Yeah, if I got friend passes, I'm taking exclusive. I don't care where it is.
Exclusive. You just fly people out.
Yeah.
No, I'm staying. I'm not good enough at golf to be worrying as much more about the golf than I do about my friends.
See, that's actually a good. That is what I was looking for in terms of like something on the other end of this argument, because that's a really good point. I might feel way less comfortable playing on a highly exclusive course. So I'm actually with you. I think I'm going to switch my answer.
Let's go. Let's go.
I'm going to throw an asterisk in there. If they have like other sport facilities as part of that nice club, I might change my mind.
That's
like squash or like pickleball or something.
That's great.
Basketball courts.
That's great. That's just great. So like you wouldn't bail on your friends and family for golf, but if you just throw in a little pickleball, you're like,
multi-sport.
Now it's a multi-sport sitch. So
that's pretty. Yeah, that changes the game. It's entirely new conversation.
Yeah.
Speaking of entirely new conversations, Coop, did you see the Daniel Jones latest info? Apparently, he is looking for a $45 million per year deal. It came out earlier that he was looking for 54, and then if you remember, like he switched agents, and they were like, "No, I'm not looking for 54."
Yeah.
And now it comes out that he's looking for 45, and the other part of this report is the Giants said no.
Right. So the number that I'm seeing that I think is being leaked by the Giants side is 4 years, 160 million, which is about 40 million. So I think that number, I've seen that floated around enough that I think that that's probably what the Giants are offering and what they're floating, which the franchise tag is 45. The exclusive franchise tag is 45. So I doubt they're going to give him the franchise tag, but for 4 years. Like, why would they, if they're hesitant about signing him long term and for a high number, why would they take the franchise tag number and give it to him for 4 years when they could just sign him for 1 year?
Yeah, what is the possible outcomes? What are the possible outcomes for franchise tagging him? He either does what you expect, in which case you're in the same situation, if not slightly worse situation, because you've just prolonged it, kicked the can down the road. Now you probably owe him more, or he's going to ask for more, or he plays much better than you expect, in which case you might be happy, but you're paying the man next year.
Right. I think.
Or he doesn't live up to that and you cut him, in which case you're basically just wasting a year. Especially if you're going to go for Saquon.
I guess the downside might be that he turns around and asks for 55 million next year, but I don't know, man. Because this is a guy they just the year before they said we're not picking up a 5th-year option at 30 million, right? Like they were kind of already out on this guy, and then now
to be fair, he was playing much worse.
Yeah, but still, he ran for 700 yards.
Yeah, it wasn't that. I don't think it was that crazy of a step forward. I think he took a step forward for sure. But I'm with you. I think differently than maybe what I've been seeing mostly on the media, which is that he took a massive step up.
What I would be concerned of is that if I was Brian Dable, I'd be concerned that what if I'm just a really good coach, and it's not that this quarterback is that much better. He only threw 15 touchdown passes. What if his offense is just really good, and pretty much anybody would have done well in that offense, So you have to have that concern that maybe this guy isn't anything special. Your offense is special. And if you had a different quarterback, if you had a Anthony Richardson, it would be even more special,
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. And there are a lot of QBs in this draft for them to potentially replace him with, I saw in the chat, we got Dustin said, "Good morning, friends." Morning, Dustin. And Simon said, "Speaking of entirely new conversations, the ultimate segue."
That was clean. It was a clean
Thank you.
segue. Yeah.
And Adam asking, do y'all think there's a chance that Anthony Richardson is the first overall draft pick? If the Bears were to trade the pick to someone like the Texans, I think it could be possible. What do you think about that, Coop?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's probably close enough that it boils down to what the coach and offensive coordinator want to do. Like if you were the Ravens, right, and you like the offense you run now, would you draft C.J. Stroud or would you draft Anthony Richardson, who Anthony Richardson would much more easily fit into that offense? So it really, I think at the end of the day, it's going to boil down to not so much who you just think is better, but more who fits what you want to do. Because these guys are very different, are they not?
Someone brought it up last week that we had on. I can't remember if it was Vinny or somebody else brought up about how the system might be entirely different too. They're bringing in a new offensive coordinator. You know who I think it was? It was Dave Richard on our FanDuel show was bringing it up. This is entirely new. This could be an entirely new system. So,
right, with the Ravens.
I think for the Ravens, so I think that this situation could definitely change.
Yeah. Well, that's how it goes. Like same with the Texans. They brought in all new coaching staff, so maybe they want to go away from what Davis Mills does, or maybe they like that pocket passer, and they would never take Anthony Richardson at 1. So that's why it's maybe not so much, okay, this guy is definitively better than this other guy. It's more of this guy does more of what we like.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're just going to play huck it, chuck it football, maybe you want Will Levis and his cannon rocket arm, throwing it up over the mountains.
Throw it up over the mountains. Dustin said the betting odds for Richardson have gone way up. Yeah,
Saw
I
that.
mean, he blew everybody away at the combine. He had a fantastic outing this weekend, and his draft stock's going to go up because of it. This is exactly what we talk about as like one of the functional values of the combine, is players can use it as a mechanism to increase or decrease their value potentially. Doesn't do it for everybody, but the outliers for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, he's all the way down to, so the current odd, or the, let's see. Do you have odds on your thing? I'm trying to find the
I did not have them pulled up.
new odds here. Yeah, so his odds went from, his odds are now plus 350. So they went from, plus 800 where they were sitting when our buddy Anand put in a bet, down to plus 350. Bryce Young is still the favorite at minus 167 from what I'm seeing. So crazy. Yeah, I mean, what a show. And then did you see he did a backflip at the end of the show, at the end of the combine? He just goes and does like a standing backflip that was filthy. I don't know why guys feel the need to do that. Like, it's such a high risk, low reward thing to do, but at the same time, he got the low reward because we're talking about it now. But
it's true.
I would be doing that one. Yeah, Dustin was out there with boots on the ground. Dustin, give us a buzz. Tell us what you saw out there.
Maria says she saw that he tumbled a little. It's like isn't tumbling a gymnastics thing?
Careful. I think he just kind of like.
Or did he stumble?
Stumbled, I think is what you meant to say. He tumbled and then he stumbled.
I don't actually know. I'm going primarily based off of every 4 years the Olympics teaches me about gymnastics, and also that movie Stick It.
Is that a good movie?
Oh, fantastic movie.
I'll have to check it out. I love those like
super underrated,
campy Disney-esque movies. I think my favorite one is Drumline of that genre.
Disney-esque. I've never thought about Drumline as Disney-esque. That's interesting.
It has those vibes to it, like the
Nick Cannon's going to do like a reboot of Drumline, but it's just all of his kids.
Yeah, where it's just like
only his kids are cast in the movie.
Yeah, where those movies where it's like I'm not sure you could have them all in a movie.
All of them. All 50.
Yeah, those movies where it's like they come up with the premise. They're like, we're going to make a movie about cheerleading, and then they make the movie after. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think about with Disney. Like, we're going to make a movie about drumming, and then we'll figure out the rest later. Like that's kind of how I feel about half these movies. But yeah, we got a guy here, FYF legend, who was at the combine himself. Mr. Dustin, are we gonna bring him on, Jail?
I can't.
There he is.
There he is. What up, Dustin?
He had boots on the ground at the combine. Special reporter checking in. Dustin, what you got for us, brother?
Good morning, guys. I am tired.
Yeah, I can imagine, dude.
Facts.
I can imagine.
5.5 hour drive home last night. I didn't stay for the running backs. They were a little later than I wanted to stay, but I did get home and watch them. But I will tell you, so let's talk Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
At the combine, they tell fans and everyone, and there was 10,000 fans there, plus all the media, which still they said 16,000, but I'll say, let's say 10,000. They tell them no cheering during 40s. When he ran, the place erupted. Like, you thought
Bill Belichick's like
a home run ball, like cheering, screaming. Everyone knew it was special. And at that point, we knew about his vert, we knew about his broad jump, we knew about his, his height. It was the loudest pop all weekend. It was crazy. And I don't think I think everybody just stood around and paused because no one knew what to do at that point.
Yeah.
And then he went
Did
out.
We all go home.
And when they do all these different routes and they're throwing, and then they get to the go routes. And the way they do it is they have all the quarterbacks and all the wide receivers, and quarterbacks get 3 at a time. And we're there locking. We're okay. This is who he's going to get. He has some decent receivers, so they hike the ball at the 20. They're supposed to throw the ball when the receiver gets to the 30, and he usually catches around the 50. Well, guys with bigger arms wait.
Yeah.
Richardson dropped back to probably the 10. Threw it when the receiver was at the near 40. The guy caught it on the far 35.
Ooh. That's a chuck, dude.
but not a chuck. It looked like he wasn't even trying. It
Yeah.
looked like he was literally just flicking his wrist.
That's who used to look like that is Michael Vick. Michael
Yeah.
Vick, he would just flick his wrist and it would just go like 60 yards.
I mean, it looked like Justin Herbert, Mahomes, Allen type level of just super easy passing. Looked like a real great ball, but still was probably the third best in that. CJ Stroud was the second best. The best in that, in my opinion, a lot of people's opinion, was Stetson Bennett. But you could tell he was chucking it. Stetson Bennett was chucking it. Like, you could see he was putting his whole weight behind it.
Yeah.
We were all talking in the media section, like, we wanted Richardson to not care about the wide receiver. Like, just try to chuck it into the other end zone. Like, just chuck it 100 yards. Like, give it just your last one. And then so they do 3. He's done. Other people are coming up. And then they get redos. And Rich Eisen's saying it. And we're all saying it like, we just want one more from Richardson. And they gave him the last one. And the room was just electric. When they saw him get a football, walk up there. And we're like, oh my gosh. And he threw another beautiful 60-yard bomb. The guy caught it. The place went nuts again. Absolutely crazy. He overshadowed everything else in the combine. That's all people talked about all set. We talked about it Friday.
Star of the show.
We talked about it Saturday when we were down. We were talking about it Sunday.
Yeah,
he
he
pulling up his stats to everyone. It was absolutely insane.
Yeah, he absolutely shined this weekend. It's just great to see. Like I feel like whenever we have a draft where it's just straight up chalk, it's kind of disappointing. I like seeing these shakeups.
Yeah, it's fun. It's more fun.
I think he has potential to go 1 overall. I think he ends up going in the top 5, but I do think he needs to sit for a year. There was a couple other throws that were a little wonky. Obviously, he didn't have great tape in college, so I think he should get drafted high, but I think he should sit. I would love to see him go to Seattle, see Seattle franchise tag Geno today. Let him sit behind Geno for a year.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
But if he goes to a system like the Colts with Shane Steichen, there's a chance that if he's with the Colts and Shane Steichen, he could push people to draft him 101 in rookie drafts for Dynasty.
Yeah, and he's already got a bunch of fans in Indianapolis. It sounds like
a lot. Yes.
Yeah, he's going to be a crowd favorite, I think, heading into this draft.
Yeah, I noticed the crowd was cheering for Anthony Richardson, and they were also cheering for anyone that went to Purdue.
Well, and CJ Stroud, there was a big CJ Stroud Ohio State contingency.
So, always, no matter where you go, there's an Ohio State contingency.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was really funny because when the offensive lineman got out to work out on Sunday, the offensive lineman from Ohio State ran, and that was the first time an Ohio State player ran a 40 at the combine.
Wow. That is kind of fun fact.
No wide receivers, no quarterbacks, no tight ends.
That's wild. Yeah, we appreciate the update, Dustin. We definitely need your insight when we get into our prospects a little later in the show.
Yeah, let me know, and maybe I'll call in if I'm awake still. We'll see. Not sure how long I'm going to make it today at work. We'll see how long.
Yeah, it's going to be an early type of day. Post-combine nap.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Hey.
Appreciate you, Dustin.
Thanks for checking in, brother.
Peace.
Gotcha.
There was another big story that is worth hitting, Coop, before we start playing some Weddle here. And it has to do with Lamar Jackson, my man. Some reports came out over the weekend that the Ravens are expected to put on the non-exclusive franchise tag, hit Lamar Jackson with that non-exclusive franchise tag, which would require a team to give up 2 firsts in order to get him, and Ravens would have the opportunity to match the deal if a team was able to reach deal.
Interesting. I think that there's a lot of franchises out there where I would say, screw the picks. We need the quarterback, man. There's just not enough good quarterbacks out there. And there's a lot of teams that are kind of a quarterback away. Like the New York Jets have everything in place. I mean, they have all the weapons.
Weird how that happened.
Right? The running backs, their line is great. Elijah Vera Tucker, Laken Tomlinson, Mekhi Becton, like they're pretty.
I feel like they're coming out of a solid, like successful rebuild.
Right.
Like they really executed well on a rebuild strategy.
And it's Robert Saleh did it the right way because he was like, I'm transforming this defense from a 4-3 into a 3-4 or actually I think it went from 3-4 to 4-3 to 3-4. And he's like, I'll take care of the defense. So we're going to load up on offense. We're going to load up on weapons. That's the side of the ball that I'm not as familiar with. So we'll go out. We'll get, we'll get Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall. We'll have all these weapons, and then whoever the offensive coordinator is can take care of that, and then I'll figure it out with the defense. Right? That's what I want to see. I want to see if you're a defensive-minded coach, load up on invest more in what you have less control over. Right?
Yeah.
So he can make it work with defense. I think that team, if you throw Lamar Jackson on that team,
on the Jets,
I think now we're talking. I mean, they should be right in the mix to win that division. And the Bills are tough, but if that team with Lamar Jackson, would you put your money on that team or would you put your money on the Dolphins?
Right now, it would be the Jets and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, that's what I think. And it's crazy that we're even having that discussion because the Dolphins are a great team, right? Like the Dolphins are looking good themselves. So that division would be
solely the QB position, just the security there. Where Tua, we're unsure. Yeah, there's more uncertainty. But speaking on this Raven situation, we already have teams that are coming out like putting the news out there. Hey, we're interested. Like the Falcons put I think they had some sort of leak this weekend that was about how they would be poised to take advantage of the situation, possibly make a move on Lamar Jackson.
The entire NFC South, honestly, like what team in the NFC South has who's the best quarterback in the NFC South?
Oh my God, Lamar Jackson, the Saints. I think it's the one team where I have put my foot down and say no, Lamar, you can't go to the Saints because that team would be so wildly. I don't know, like they would be so edgy, the edgiest team in the NFL.
Oh, for sure. And there's that team. I did my write up on the Saints, and they're just kind of sitting there, waiting to see what happens. Basically, they took Michael Thomas's contract and restructured it right at the end of the year in January, and just basically gave him an extra $1 million, an extra game check, and they set up the contract where they can kind of get out of it now, or he could restructure and stay. So like they're basically sitting there, and if they get Derek Carr or they get Lamar Jackson or they get Aaron Rodgers, they could easily just bring back a bunch of those weapons. So we talk about, obviously they have Alvin Kamara, they have Chris Olave. What's stopping them from bringing back Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry and Juwan Johnson? If they get the quarterback, they could just say, hey, got a quarterback now. You guys want to play for the Saints again? And then boom, now they have Michael Thomas at split end and Jarvis Landry in the slot and Chris Olave at flanker and Juwan Johnson at tight end and Alvin Kamara running back. Like that offense could immediately be awesome if they got a guy like that. So there are some scary teams. I mean, like the Buccaneers with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, right? Like these teams are ready to rock and roll. None of them have a quarterback. So
Simon said, if Lamar leaves, I want him on the Falcons. I feel like this like boyish urge to just every time someone's like, oh yeah, like, oh, I'm interested in Lamar Jackson on my team. My reaction every single time is no. Get your own quarterback.
Exactly.
It's the Eric DeCosta approach to or no, not Eric DeCosta. Who's the Bengals GM talking about?
Oh yeah.
T. Higgins.
Yeah. Get your own T. Higgins.
Go get your own wide receiver. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. But I mean, it is fun. It is fun to sit here and just be like, oh, let's just take this amazing MVP caliber player and just put him on other tems. Like it is a fun discussion.
Of course you want Lamar Jackson. That doesn't make you special. Every team wants Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, there's only a handful of teams that wouldn't be better with Lamar Jackson. And some of those teams have franchise quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like the Cowboys.
Yeah,
right?
some of the teams with franchise quarterback might be interested.
Right. Yeah, you could exactly. Put them on the Cowboys, right? Put them on the Broncos. Just like you could pick any team. So
yeah,
it still doesn't make it less fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into our game of Weddle. If you haven't played this with us before, we play a game, weddlegame.com. You can go on and play this NFL guessing game. It's kind of like Wordle, but you're guessing NFL players, and you get clues based off their division, their height, weight, jersey number, that sort of thing. So you can follow along the chat, weddlegame.com. We're going to solve this as a team, as a unit.
Let's do it.
All right, Coop. Who should we go with first?
I want to go with a player that I actually tweeted about yesterday, a player I don't think many people even know about, and he might not do anything ever. His name is Stone Smart.
Stone Smart is who you want to start with.
Start with
Okay.
Stone Smart. Yes.
All right, he's in here. Stone Smart, 2 T's.
Yes.
Well,
The
little information. Not in the AFC, not a tight end.
Yep.
He is way below 6'4", which is Stone Smart's height. He is a year or two above Stone Smart, which is the age of 24. So he's either 25 or 26, and then his jersey number is below 46.
Wow, we could not have gotten more. Could not have gotten less information with that. Why is Stone Smart number 48? What a terrible number.
That's a random number.
Yeah, this guy, if he were ever to pop and do anything in this league, the announcers would have a field day because he fits literally every tight end meme narrative that you can think of. This guy, not only does he have a cool name, Stone Smart, but he was
Stone Smart.
Yeah, he checks all the boxes. High school basketball player.
Is his middle name Cole, do you think?
Has to be, dude. I know I need
Stone Cold Smart.
Actually, his middle names are Cold Stone Creamery. So his name is
Stone Cold Stone Creamery Smart.
It's on his birth certificate. But this guy.
Wait. Hold on. Before you continue, Coop, close your eyes and imagine the next words that come out of my mouth have zero context. You hear this on the street. Dustin said, "I got hard in 3, but I had a good starting player."
What is he? He got. I got hard in 3, but I had a good starting player. He's talking about Weddle. But it took me a second. I actually did a good job of blanking my mind there. It took me a second to actually remember.
I got a little bit lost in there.
Yeah. But this guy, he was a high school basketball player, and in high school, so that's one tight end meme right there, converted basketball player. In high school, he also played quarterback. Then in college, he converted from quarterback to wide receiver, and then now in the tight end, he is in the NFL, he is converted from wide receiver to tight end. So this guy checks every meme box that you can have for a tight end. The announcers would go wild with this play.
I was immediately captured by the guy mowing the lawn behind you.
Yeah,
Superstar. Oh my God, there's a door there?
Yeah.
Where are you in a co-working space?
This is the studio. Yeah, you shut those guys right out. Pretty cool, right?
I wish I had a sliding glass door for like every situation I was ever in. I could just always dramatically leave.
It just always shut it out. There you go. Fixed. All your problems can be fixed with a giant sliding glass door.
Sliding glass door. Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah. And Albert in here said, "Good morning, everyone." Good morning, Albert. Welcome in. Well, we're playing Weddle. We get Stone Smart. Stone Smart, the illustrious NFL player that we all know and love. Next guest here, we got to go with a QB, running back, or wide receiver. Let's go with.
Dude, timeout. I have to pause this game to tell you that are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I don't think you're ready.
I hope. I don't know.
Stone Smart's middle name is Cole.
No way.
With an E.
No way. Stone Cold Smart. Let's go.
Dude, this is my favorite player now. We have to root for him. Like, dude, if Gerald Everett gets cut, he kind of is the best pass catching tight end on that team.
Are you lying to me?
I'm just saying.
Did you just edit the Wikipedia page?
I swear, if this is on Old Dominions, he went to Old Dominion. It's on his website.
Stone Cold Smart.
Son of Sean and Pam Smart. Full name is Stone Cold.
What are his parents' names?
Sean and Pam. They both played college basketball.
And their son's Stone.
Come
here, Stone. Where's Stone?
Stone Cold Stunner. All right, guess
Stone
another
Cold
player.
Smart. All right, next player. Let's go with a player that we all know and love. Let's go with T. Higgins. Shout out Simon.
He's too tall.
And that gave us no information.
No, dude.
That was a terrible guess. And he's not in the AFC. Literally, that was the worst guess, and you let me do it, Coop.
I tried not to. I tried.
His number is over 48. Pretty much every single box is wrong.
Where is Simon, dude?
Yeah, this is why they don't let me run this game.
Simon's in the chat saying, "No effing way. His name is Stone Cold."
I said that before even knowing. How did that happen?
All right, at least we know it's not a wide receiver. That's the info we did get.
That's the one, info here. All right, Coop. What do you want to go with next? We got
put Dalvin Cook in there.
Dalvin Cook.
Fits,
all right.
He should fit all those boxes.
All right, Dalvin Cook. So he's in the NFC, not the NFC North. He is a running back. He's taller than 5'10", but not too far taller. Not that much taller. So he's 5'11" or 6 foot. He is under 27, which means he has to be age 26 or 26, right? 25 or 26.
Yeah, 25 or 26. And
his jersey number is over 4, and it's not close. So
yeah,
between 6 and 83 or 82.
Hal guessed David Montgomery, but Montgomery's in the NFC North, so it can't be Montgomery.
Yeah, it won't be NFC North. This will be NFC South, East, or West.
Could be Saquon Barkley. It's his second guess. Let's throw
Saquon Barkley. He would fit that number. He would fit the age. He would fit the height. I like that guess. Let's do it.
Get him in there.
All right, Saquon Barkley. NFC East is correct. He is a running back. We knew that. 6 foot exactly. His age is 25. So he's a 25-year-old running back in the NFC East. And his jersey number is below 20.
Okay.
24 or below. Sorry. No.
Okay. So he's got to be 24. On. So he's going to be on the Eagles, Cowboys, or Washington. So it could be Tony Pollard.
Pollard's number
20.
20. Could be Zeke. Is 21, but he's too old. So it's not him.
Could be Miles Sanders.
Could be Sanders. What? But he's number 20 something, right?
I don't know, actually.
Is he 6 foot?
Is Tony Pollard that big?
Yeah, I think so. I like Pollard. Let's go with Pollard.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's correct. Let's go. Tony. It's Tony Pollard. Man, I just do that with every running back, I guess. Agumba Wale.
That's the best one. That's the best one.
That is the best one.
Yeah.
Well done, Coop. We got it here in 5 guesses. It's not our best.
Not our best, but if you can really count the fact that the T. Higgins guess was completely inappropriate and
entirely errant guess there.
And it didn't help us at all. We actually got in 4.
That's a good point. If you take out my stupidity, we did it much quicker. Way quicker.
If you take out my stupidity too, then we actually would have gotten like 2.
Then we are geniuses.
We do need you, Simon, as you point out in the chat. Why don't you come back on the show?
Yeah, quit being a little butt.
Quit being a butt.
Oh, hey. If you're enjoying the show, hit that like button. We got some more games coming up. We got some vague descriptions. We got some You Feeling Lucky Punk, Coop's favorite game. We're going to be talking some prospects, some of the incoming quarterback rookies. We got a lot more here, so stick around with us here on the Bettor Sports Network.
Talk about your picks and your fantasy teams on Bettor Sports Network.
The importance of checking out the site that you're playing on. Default rankings of these sites. A lot of times they don't get updated. I know from experience. I used to write default rankings for the NFBKC, the basketball version of the NFBC. I'd write these default rankings in June for the NBA, before the NBA draft, before free agency opened up. And guess what? I was never asked to write an update article or update the default rankings. This happens a lot. Maybe if there's something obvious, it gets updated. Aaron Judge, for some reason, hurts his back. Maybe they make that change. Just maybe. But you don't know that. And that's why it's just so important that you show up to your draft room or you do that pre-draft prep. We're all busy. We know we're about to devote a lot of time to our fantasy baseball drafts. Why not spend the extra 20 to 25 minutes to invest properly in your team, to go and see which of those players are way down default rankings? They're going to be different on all of these sites, and you're going to be looking at them and going, maybe their analysts think a certain player who shouldn't be in the top 100, who should be maybe even not even the top 200, will be in that top 100. You got to check that out. You got to know where you're playing, just like you got to know your format when you sign up for the league. It's just so crucial, and people just skip right over it. You think it's cool to show up to the draft room 3 minutes before the draft. Well, number one, it's not cool because the commissioner's trying to make sure it is organized, especially me, who runs auctions. You can't, it's one thing if someone doesn't show up for the snake draft. Oh, well, doesn't ruin it for everyone. Auctions, you can't have someone not show up. Auto bidding, auto auctioning, it ruins the sanctity of those drafts here, which is why I always recommend, hey, make it easy on your commissioner. Don't make them send those texts there. It's annoying. You shouldn't have to do that. Don't wait till the last minute and get in there about 20, 25 minutes before so you can just look up and down the entire default rankings list so you can make a queue out of that, Ron. And the reason I keep saying this is because people still show up 2, 3 minutes before the draft, and that's it. In fact, in one of my auctions, people were asking me where certain players were, and I go, did you search their name? No, I just got in. Well, that's no excuse right there. That's your own fault. I mean, you're organized, so you're a hard person to ask here.
You're getting those questions. This is your preschool league, right? People don't know how to search player names.
People freak out. They don't think. That's the problem. Because they show up 2 minutes before the draft. That's why.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. Weekdays at 5 Eastern on Bettor Sports Network.
Welcome back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's 2.0, y'all.
It's 2.0, y'all.
Let's go. Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show.
Coop in the
Front Yard
Hall.
Fantasy. Coop in the Hog. Simon is on a short-term expedition to Antarctica to solve the very important but very slept-on shoe crisis that's happening right now in our country.
Yeah.
So thank you, Simon, for all your good work.
Our country of Antarctica, obviously. Some of you may know that we do live in America now, but we are.
Has it always been that way?
Dual citizens originally from Antarctica.
Part Penguin.
Part Penguin, and we did have to leave during the shoe Holocaust, which is what really led to the great shoe shortage that has been going on for decades now. Decades.
Yeah, I can't remember before there's the great shoe shortage of 2008. Well,
I mean, we do live in a land of footwear abundance here.
Yes, yeah,
country.
we are shoe blessed.
USA.
Nick in the chat said, I thought you were going to say he's finally going to solve climate change. When is he going to get to that? It's on his list, behind Watch The Godfather.
Right, you got to do first things first, right? You got to do the more important stuff first. You got the shoe crisis of Antarctica,
and climate change.
And then, how are you even going to begin to fix climate change if you haven't seen The Godfather, right?
If there's one consistency with Simon, it's that he will wait until the last minute for that climate change to be a thing, and then he will solve the heck out of it. He'll solve the absolute heck out of it, but you're gonna have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, he'll handle it. I have no doubts about that.
Dear Diarrhea, this is a segment where we get into we reflect on the past. We get a little bit, in our feelings here. We start reflecting on the past, and we write down in our diarrhea here all the things that we learned this year, things we want to remember for next year, just our general live diary entries.
Yes, and I'll go first. Yeah, I'll go first today. My March.
How'd you know I was going to ask that?
I was wondering if it was going to be me, if it was going to be the shoe climate crisis guy, right? But Simon, if you're out there listening, if you come back and join the show,
if you can hear us
out there, I'll give you a present. If you come back on, how's that sound? Yeah, I'll give
you a present.
Well, it would be kind of
expensive.
Spoiled. Yeah, if I wasn't going to if I was going to tell him what the present is, I would have just said I'll give you blank, right? Like the whole once you say present, you're you're making it a surprise. So if I then immediately turn around and tell them what the present is, then I would have just told them that.
That's a good point.
But Simon, I will give you something if you can. Yeah, I'm trying, he says. Clearly not trying that hard. All right. Fix that shoe crisis, get back on here. But anyway, so my Dear Diarrhea is I saved it for this particular journal entry because it's right after the combine. This entry is pertinent to the combine, and it actually really applies to all of February and pretty much all of March and most of April, which is now is an incredibly dangerous time for you in your dynasty leagues because you can give yourself preconceived notions. And
not preconceived notions.
Preconceived notions. Yes, they are incredibly dangerous, especially in dynasty. And if you play Devy fantasy football, you can be especially guilty of this because you draft these guys based on what you see on film and based on what you just saw at the combine. Like if you have a Devy team already, yeah, slandering Devy right now, Scott Fish.
Yeah.
Eat it.
What are you going to do? Say something about it, Scott. Say something.
Do something about it. Yeah. But seriously, if you go out now and you spend so much time making these rankings based on what you just saw at the combine and based on what you saw at film, you can get locked into those and get take locked, right? So we saw the biggest example in recent history has been there were a ton of people that had Hakeem Butler as their number one wide receiver, and a ton of people had him in the top 3. Then the actual draft comes around, and it turns out teams don't like Hakeem Butler the way that the Twitter
Belichick does.
Dynasty community. Yeah, I guess Belichick does. But once he converted to a tight end.
I'm thinking of N'Keal Harry.
So N'Keal Harry. Well, people liked him, and then he got drafted high. Hakeem Butler, people had him as like
the Arizona guy.
Top 3 wide receiver. He came out and people loved him. And then he got drafted in the 4th round. He completely slid in the draft. The scouts didn't like him. Professional NFL scouts were not into this guy. And people still, because they gave themselves such preconceived notions before the draft, still said, I still like this guy and I'm still taking him in my rookie draft. And they reached for him. His ADP was in like the 2nd round. He was going ahead of guys like Terry McLaurin, which is crazy. And it turned out that he was a day 3 wide receiver. And he didn't do anything in the NFL. Didn't even play, honestly, for the Cardinals. So just be very careful with that. Obviously, you want to do your research, but in dynasty leagues, typical dynasty leagues that draft after the NFL draft, there are 3 parts to the equation. There's the college production, there's the workout metrics, which we just got via the combine, and we'll, I guess the pro days as well coming up soon. And then there's the NFL draft data, which includes draft capital, but it also includes things like narrative of how the draft goes, landing spot, all that information. So with a dynasty league, you have 3 points of information. Be careful not to overdo it now and give yourself preconceived notions. That's the title of this diary entry, if you haven't noticed.
Don't want those preconceives. They're dangerous. They're dangerous. So Scott Fish answering our call in the chat said, "Don't double count, don't triple count." And they said, I actually feel like most Devy players are more into what they saw in college than combine numbers. He said, "Go ahead."
I'm not saying that all Devy players make this mistake. The best,
the dumb ones.
A lot of the best dynasty players are also incredible Devy players, right? Because you're good at the analysis, but they know how to separate the two. They know how to avoid preconceived notions. And they like Scott says, he waits to do his deep dive now. So do I, right? So you go in, I start now is when I use the film and stuff to start categorizing these guys. Which wide receiver can play split end? Which wide receiver am I concerned might be like a field stretcher? Which guy can, play the slot? I try to categorize the guys now. And then later, once we have all the information, then I start ranking them and say, okay, this guy looked like a split end. He went to a team that needs a split end where he can probably start and play every single snap now. And he went in the early 2nd round. I'm kind of describing like Michael Pittman, right? Like now he's a guy I really like. So you can collect data now. Just don't sit here and say, this is my wide receiver 1 and I'm not changing it under any circumstances.
Yeah. No, you got to update your priors. You got You got to take the information and make a decision holistically. I like that. I like that entry a lot, Coop.
I care more about being right than I do about being first.
And if you do it right, you'll end up being right and first, which is the best way to be.
Shakalaka.
Skyfish also said, for me, draft capital is one of the biggest pieces. I no longer do ranks until after the draft. Draft capital is such an important piece of the equation that a lot of people overlook. So I like that.
Yeah. Scott, you're because you're smart and you're good at this. And you're handsome and now you're skinny because you've been losing weight. So you kind of got it all.
Someone. Now you're skinny.
Now you're skinny because you've been losing. I mean, you got the whole package going now, Scottfish. It's amazing. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. And yeah, the way I use draft capital a lot of times is like, say you're categorizing these players, right? And you separate them into, okay, these are the split ends. These are the big guys that can play on the outside. Then I look at it and I take the draft and I say, how can I take this group of guys and figure something out, right? So I look at it and like take the draft I just used as an example, right? Michael Pittman and T. Higgins were both split ends. They both went very close together. We didn't get much information there. But another guy, Denzel Mims, who I had as a split end, he went essentially all the way at the end of that round, right? So just by the nature that two teams that needed split ends drafted these two players and this other guy fell all the way down to here. At that point, for me personally, I was never going to rank Denzel Mims ahead of Michael Pittman or ahead of T. Higgins because the teams that needed that exact type of player, their professional scouts picked these other two guys, right? Like that alone is going to make it. I need to see something very specific to believe that I knew something that all these guys didn't for me to put Denzel Mims ahead, which I didn't see that, so I didn't rank him ahead. So that's kind of how you can use that information. And again, once we get closer to the actual NFL draft, we can get more into that stuff. For now, it's fun to look at these guys and say, hey, this guy does this well. This guy didn't look that good doing that. This guy's fast. This guy can, this guy did 72 reps at 225 on the bench. We can do that now, but
this guy did 73.
This guy did 73. We got to move him one spot ahead in the rankings. Like, you don't have to put your rankings in stone right now.
That's good advice, Coop. It's very good advice. I think the draft is going to shake things up a ton, as it always does. Hal in the chat said, how many best ball drafts are y'all doing this time of year? And I have to give the legal answer here, which is none. I'm legally not allowed to for money. But for fun, I'll do it.
For funsies. Yeah. I do drafts throughout the entire year, starting already. The moment Underdog starts releasing drafts, I start doing them simply to give myself I'm not doing like $100 leagues right now, but I want to know what the vibe is. I want to know what the ADP is, like where these guys are going. And when you put $5 on a draft, people take it seriously. If you put $1 on a draft, people care versus a mock draft where people are just like, they don't care. So
except our mock drafts, the Front Yard Fantasy mock drafts, in which case most people care. Sometimes we get somebody who auto drafts, but most of the time there's real people in there.
We start letting the chat make picks. That team always ends up a little bit wonky. But that's the other part.
The chat's undefeated.
The chat is undefeated. Yeah, but you got to always. It's good to have that person in there. If you do an all expert draft, it's not going to look like your hometown draft because people are going to be like planting. That's the thing with the expert draft sometimes is that there's a lot of flag planting, right? So you get those reaches where people are like, oh, I have to write like a little blurb about my team and this is my guy, so I'm going to reach for him. Like, so those expert mocks, they don't always look like real leagues either. A real mock is what you get with the FYF crew, right? So,
except for the auto drafters, sometimes
those jerks. Hey, and good morning, 23423. How we doing?
What up, 23? What up? Said RG3 run Olympic track and field. True. And said, how shocked would Lamar Jackson trade to the Dallas Cowboys? That would be utterly shocking.
Wild.
I think it would have ripped apart the fabric of space-time.
It would be crazy.
Jerry Jones is like a Lamar Jackson truther.
Did you see Mike McCarthy's comments on Kellen Moore, Joe?
Yes. Yeah.
Where he was like, he basically said that he's too much of a gunslinger. Former quarterback, too much of a gunslinger.
I'm too old.
Yeah. He was, it really was such a boomer statement. He's like, we're scoring too fast. The defense doesn't have time to rest. But I guess it does make sense. Like Chip Kelly was scoring way too fast too, and not giving his defense under rest. From a real NFL standpoint, it makes sense. But from
How
a
about you
fantasy
score
football,
how about you score real fast when it matters?
yeah, exactly.
You're obviously not scoring fast enough because you're not winning.
If your defense stinks, then just come out and score again.
Yeah.
Seems
Seems to be working for the Chiefs.
Yeah, it does make sense, but at the same time, like from a fantasy football perspective, that sounds great. That sounds great, right? Just scoring so fast that the defense doesn't have time to rest, and they're also letting up a ton of points.
Right.
It sounds great to me in the fantasy football world. Let's just put defense. No defense sounds good to me too.
Just all offense, baby.
Yeah.
That's just them going down the field. Nobody's. This is the most boring game.
Yeah, that would be boring. Okay, a little defense.
Al said Dak and Lamar swap. No, stop suggesting these wife swaps with my quarterback.
Classic quarterback wife swap.
So my Dear Diarrhea entry here, I got two that I'm going to throw out back to back. First one is we're going to the Combine next year.
Hell yeah.
Seeing Dustin there made me just want to be there. I was see Dustin there. I just want to see Dustin. It doesn't matter about the Combine. But it seems like such a fun thing to go talk to some players and ish. We're doing that next year for sure.
Yeah. Keith, get us those credentials.
Yeah, and book our flights and pay for all of our stuff, please.
Pay for our stuff. Also, don't get yourself any. You can't come.
My real Dear Diarrhea entry here is go look at your old drafts. Because right now is the time, you're coming off the season. You're coming into the offseason. We're getting new data like the Combine. We're getting new information from people. The consensus rookie rankings are starting to get formed. The draft will certainly solidify a lot of that ADP. What you want to do is, and this goes in the same vein as what Coop's saying, what you want to do is remind yourself of all of the cognitive biases that are messing with your brain right now. Thinking it's got to be this guy. This guy's got to do this thing. Coming in with those preconceives. I want this, bad boys. So whenever you go back and look at your old drafts, you will quickly be reminded at how much we are incorrect all the time in trying to predict this stuff. So go back, look at your old drafts. Remind yourself that consensus is not always right. In fact, it's wrong most of the time. So go back, see your old mistakes, see your league's old mistakes. You'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe they took this guy this late. This is so stupid.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. And you know what? I'll add, go look at the team that won. Look at the team that won your league and see what he did, and look at the rule. Really think about the rules of your league too. Like, is your league a 4-point passing league and this guy won because he took the mobile QB, right? Or does your league have settings where defenses score a lot of points? Did this guy take the first defense off the board? Did he take the last defense off the board? Go and look at what you did, look at what he did or he or she did, and see if you can figure out, okay, what am I doing that's messing me up? And what did this person do that had them win the league, right? See if you can piece it together. Now is the time to go and do that, so that you can make some notes and not make those mistakes again. Or if
you'll wreck people next year. If you start doing it, most people aren't going to do this. So you'll just start wrecking people if you do this.
Honestly, I've done it in my big hometown league. I do this to a degree where I know who I can trade with during the draft. Like I've in a redraft league, I've traded 2 of my picks for a first round pick, like second and 6th round pick mid draft. I've been able to set my rankings because my buddy Dave has taken a wide receiver in the first round for 11 years in a row, going back to like Calvin Johnson and he took Calvin Johnson. I know that if Dave is picking before or after me, I know it's a wide receiver. So like, say I pick at 11, he picked at 12. If I want a wide receiver, I need to take him there because he's probably taking 2. He's at least taking 1. So
you brought up Dave, which I think is kind of funny because 2-3 and you're saying, hey, I like your background, Dave.
Dave. Why you call me Dave? That's great.
Start calling you Dave.
It's a green screen. Yeah, it's a green screen. When I'm in Florida, my name is Dave.
Why is Dave such a funny name to get? It's so different than Coop.
Yeah.
But it's such a funny name to accidentally call somebody. What's up, Dave? I'm Jerry.
What's up, Dave? This is the Dave and 2.0 show.
Dave pops in. Dave pops in, formerly known as Jerry. He's like, it's 2.0, y'all.
It's 2.0, yeah. No, you're 2.0.
I'm Dave.
So, Dave and 2.0. That's what the show is now. And no longer Coop and the Hogs. Now it's Dave and 2.0.
Dave and 2.0.
Excellent.
Coop,
I wonder what Simon's would have been.
Simon, I have no idea. I was gonna try and come up with one on the spot.
I think he just went to bed. He's not even in the chat anymore.
He got some Taco Bell. He's sitting at home with a gordita crunch on his belly,
Yeah.
falling asleep.
Hal doesn't like the rebrand. He doesn't. He wants to keep it Coop and the Hogs. Coop and
the
chat.
Hogs.
Do you prefer the show title Coop and the Hogs or Dave and 2.0?
If YouTube was working, I'd put a poll in the chat.
Yeah.
But I can't.
Imagine that. Imagine if YouTube was working for once.
Imagine that.
Hal's OG. He doesn't like change.
He doesn't like the change. I respect that. Coop, you got any more Dear Diarrhea entry for us?
Yeah, I think like now's the time of year to talk about the combine stuff, man. And really what's important, right? So obviously 40 time is great and all, and it can be a difference maker at certain tiers, but I wouldn't go too crazy just moving the fastest guys to the top and all these slower guys to the bottom, because we've seen some of these guys that aren't fast have amazing careers, right? One of the best examples, and the thing is, guys that are big and guys that are speed, especially at the wide receiver position, those guys, their skill set doesn't always translate long term. Like as soon as they lose a little bit of that speed, some of those guys are done. Like Des Bryant, he was a big, fast guy that didn't have a lot of finesse, and once he lost that speed a little bit, he was kind of done. But you look at an example like Anquan Bolden, who ran like a 4.6 or something. His 40 was so incredibly slow. I didn't think that he would have any chance in this league. But because he is a possession wide receiver and knew how to use his body to create space and create separation and kind of box guys out, he played until he was like 38 years old. Like Anquan Bolden, he might still be playing right now. He retired he retired like 2 years ago. Like Anquan Bolden played forever despite running. I don't know. I'll pull it up right now, but his 40 was like, you look at it and you're like, what the hell, dude? How is this guy even an NFL player? But
who's the guy that was it last year ran like a really slow 40, like absurdly slow,
like a 4.9?
Do you remember? You know what I'm talking about?
Was it?
There was a play. No. I think it was a defensive player, maybe a lineman who ran like a comically slow 40. I can't remember who it was. It'll come to me. Yeah.
Anquan Bolden, he was 6'1", 220, ran a 4.72, which is, according to Player Profile, that is 6th.
And slow AF.
6th percentile, right? Every workout metric that you look at here, speed score, burst score, agility score, like his agility score, 9th percentile. Catch radius, 7th percentile. Like this guy, across the board, all the metrics suggest that this guy would not be good. The Cardinals still took him in the second round, and he played until he was $1 million.
Until he was $1 million.
Yeah, he played until he was, I think he honestly played until he was 38 years old. Yeah, 36. He played until he was 36. And when he was 36 years old, he still scored 8 touchdowns.
Dang.
Yeah, baller. So don't go too crazy with workout metrics and all that stuff, because there's a lot more to being an NFL player than just running fast and jumping high.
The only thing I could see is in 2011, Isaiah Thompson ran a 6.06 second 40, which is the slowest of all time. Yeah,
that's why when Simon said he was going to run a 7, I was like, I don't think so, man. Like,
I don't know. Yeah, it's probably unlikely, but still, I don't know. Even like the slowest NFL player is probably pretty good.
The slowest NFL player is still pretty fast, but some of these guys.
Like my brother was a former walk-on center for University of Maryland back in like 2000 time frame, and that dude's like 6'3", 6'4", probably 250, 300 pounds, when I was growing up, and he runs so freaking fast because of football. Like he's one of the fastest people I know, and he's massive.
How fast can he run the 40?
I don't know. I should ask him. I don't know what his time was. I was like 5 when he was playing, so I don't remember much.
We'll check with him. Let's have him run versus Simon.
We should see that. He's like 14 years older than me now, so probably not as fast.
But he can still
Also,
move.
he's always been 14 years older than me. That's not a new thing. Tim said, "How fast can I run the 40?" Seems like you would know that. How fast do you run the 40?
Do you think you're fast? Who do you think's faster, Tim or Simon?
Tim.
Who do you
Tim's
think's
very
faster?
fast. Tim's super fast.
Who's faster, you or Simon?
Me.
Who's faster, Keith or Simon?
I've never seen Keith run. I've never seen Keith in person. For all I know, he could have like a real wonky body.
Like a peg leg?
Yeah. Could look like an hourglass. Sexy AF. Keith behind that camera.
Yeah. I bet I got Keith. I bet Keith is faster than Simon.
And then Nick asking whose significant other is the fastest?
Oh,
Or who
my wife.
can run the 40 the fastest?
My wife, 100%. She still has records at Tewksbury High School, track records.
I've never met your wife, but I can confidently say it's probably her, given that little information you just gave us.
Just her names are on like plaques. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm still faster than her, but
She's probably faster than me. For
she
sure.
might be fast. She honestly might be faster than me. She's asleep right now, so I'll say that. I would never say it if she was awake, and I would obviously say me. But while she's sleeping right now, I'll admit that she might be faster than me.
Simon said Leanne is fast AF. So maybe Leanne will give her a run for her money.
Wife race. Sounds like we got a wife race.
Oh, that was a weird party horn.
Womp, womp, womp.
All right, well, that was our Dear Diarrhea segment. I feel like we got some good entries in, Coop. I feel like we're gonna look back on this entry and back on it fondly.
Fondly, yeah. March 6th. Get some
March,
information in.
that was the day. That Monday.
That was the day. Talked about Anquan Bolden for quite a bit.
Yes,
Talked
we
about
did.
Stone Cold Stunner.
Stone
Smart.
Cold Smart, the guy I did not know before that now I love.
I love him too, dude. And honestly, the narrative is there. Gerald Everett gets cut. We're adding Stone Smart. Right now, he's more of a watch list guy, gotta say. Unless you have like a 20-man taxi squad you could put him on. But
Right.
I mean, he got called up to the active roster and he caught a couple passes last year for this team. So not crazy. Donald Parham's unrestricted free agent. Gerald Everett he could potentially get cut. Trey McKitty blocked on like 29% of his pass plays. Trey McKitty played like 500 snaps and blocked on like 340 of them. Like this guy he's going down the dark side. He's gone down the path of being a blocking tight end. So I'm not interested in Trey McKitty at all. So if Gerald Everett does get cut, they're probably going to upgrade the position. But if they don't, Stone Smart, Stone Cold Stoner.
Stones.
So get that on tape.
Simon said the Stone Cold moniker for Steve Austin was born in March of '96. Stone Cold Smart was born in October of '98. His parents did that 100% on purpose.
100%, dude. Stone Cold Stunner, baby. Let's go, dude. I'm all fired up just thinking about it, dude. Former basketball player, former quarterback, former wide receiver. Unreal, dude.
Unreal. And we had a question here from Adam in the chat. He said, I know this is a long shot, but y'all think there is any chance Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, or Saquon Barkley or David Montgomery could end up on the Bills next year?
It could happen. It could happen. I don't know if – I look at the Bills and the Eagles, and I don't know if it's wise for them to spend up on running back simply because the quarterbacks are two of the best goal line backs in the league, right?
Yeah.
And they also have what I believe are viable pass-catching backs on the team in Kenneth Gainwell for the Eagles and James Cook for the Bills. I think those teams, if they can find an affordable bruiser that can play on the early downs and, get a 3rd and 1 or whatever when you need it, that would fit nicely because then you have the like running down back and then you have the pass down back they already have and then the quarterback to do the goal line stuff, do whatever. you have a complete set. So a guy like Damian Harris, for instance, who's a free agent right now, he doesn't do much of the pass game, but you don't really need him to. Somebody like in the draft, this guy Dwayne McBride. I think he only caught 4 passes like in all of his college career. Like
Is it Danny's brother?
Yeah, Danny McBride's brother. He has a mullet.
Dwayne.
Yeah, get him in there. Danny McBride 2.0.
You know, there's a random aside, but there's a random HBO show that I've been randomly liking. I didn't expect to like this. Joey Wright made some offhand comment months ago about the show Righteous Gemstones on HBO. It's a Danny McBride show, and I just happened to be in the market to watch a new show that day. Turned it on, and I actually like it. It's a pretty good Danny McBride show.
First of all, I'll always watch Danny McBride. He is so funny. Like even if there's a movie comes out that looks like it's going to be garbage, I'll watch it.
Still watch it, yeah.
Still watch. Like I watched what's that one where they like him and Will Ferrell and they like go back in time, like
Hot Tub Time Machine. That's not Will Ferrell.
Oh, that movie's amazing, dude. Hot Tub Time Machine's awesome. No,
Is Danny McBride in that? I feel like he should be if he's not.
He's not, but he should be in the second one. Land of the Lost is the movie I'm talking about, which is awful. It's awful, but I watched it anyway, and I still laughed because that dude is just so funny, dude. But yeah, I'll get in on Righteous Gemstones. I trust Joey Wright with his.
It turns out he never even watched the show. He just said it in passing. I was like, "Oh, Joey started watching Righteous Gemstones." He's like, "Oh yeah, what's that?" I'm like,
"What's that?
Didn't you recommend it?" Okay.
Oh, wow. Adam Devine and John Goodman are in that show.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I didn't expect to like it. Listen, coming up, we got a new segment called Freshman Orientation. We're talking about the incoming QB prospects. We got some Feeling Lucky Punk, and we're going to be answering all of Reddit's questions. So stay with us. We got some good content coming up for you the next hour and a half. You're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on the Bettor Sports Network.
As a longtime baseball fan, here's my message to other baseball fans, to steal a line from the Packers' future Hall of Fame quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. Everyone needs to relax after what we saw this past weekend as spring training games out in Arizona and down in Florida got going, and we're inching closer and closer to Major League Baseball opening day. The rule changes in Major League Baseball is not for myself. It's not for you out there, the hardened baseball fan, whether you're a fan 5, 10, 15, 30, or even 50 years from all around this great country. It's not for those that are going to be locked in. It's for trying to generate more fans. So if they want the pitcher to go out there and work in rhythm with a guy on base, begin the windup within 20 seconds, nobody on base, begin the windup within 15 seconds, or have the batter make sure that he's back in the batter's box within 8 seconds, then making the base pass first, second, and third bigger, eliminating the shift. All of this is to make the game better. We've seen leagues, whether it be the National Football League, do they get to the same league as it is today in 2023, or what we saw in 2022 as it was 30 years ago? No, it's not. Is NBA basketball the same? No. How many games do you see being played? 83-79 finals. You don't see that at all. So every league adjusts to try and bring what? More fans into the sport. And that is something that Major League Baseball is going out there and trying to do. I've been critical at times of Rob Manfred, whether or not as a MLB commissioner, whether he likes the sport based on some of the rhetoric that he has spewed in years gone by. But I got to be honest with you, as a longtime baseball fan, I've been a Yankee fan my entire life. Watched a ton of Met games here in the tri-state area. Watched baseball all around. Can't wait for October baseball. Think it's absolutely unbelievable what is transpiring now and what's happening now, and the rule changes being brought about baseball. It's going to bring back to the game to when I became a fan, where the stolen base was something, moving guys over was something, having men on base, batting averages ascending, not being an all or nothing league where either you're striking out or hitting the ball over the fence. And that is what baseball is trying to do. So as everybody tries to adjust, and change is difficult, whether you're changing your diet, exercise routine, changing your relationships, changing a job, change is different. I get that. And it's hard. But let's take a step back. Let's understand what Major League Baseball is trying to do here. And they're trying to repopulate or repopularize the sport. That's what they're trying to do. They're clearly the third most popular sport in the United States. They want to make it less regionalized. This is the way they need to go about doing it. I'm all for it. For more content like this, download the Bettor Sports Network app or go to bettorsports.com.
Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show.
Whoa.
Whoa!
A little baseball talk on the commercial there. I'm actually doing a fantasy baseball draft right now. I just made a pick during the break.
No way. When are we doing our fantasy baseball draft?
I don't know. Matt keeps sending emails and I keep ignoring them. Perhaps
I thought we were gonna do one for like on our show.
Yeah,
and learn baseball.
I mean, I used to write baseball back. I pulled up me and Jen Piacenti were looking at some old closers. She didn't believe it.
Jen Piacenti, yeah. Jen's the best.
I pulled up. She didn't believe that I wrote them, so I had to pull up old closer articles I wrote from 2020. Some pretty hot takes in there. I actually called the Michael Givens trade from the Orioles. Not saying that I 100% called it, but I did, and pretty much invented Michael Givens. But so yeah, deep down I am a baseball guy. They just decided to have me write NFL content all year round instead, because that's the sport I'm more familiar with. But that doesn't mean that I can't kick your butt in fantasy baseball, which I will. And I just drafted Gene Segura. Folks out there, tell me if that's a good pick or not.
Tom Segura?
I just drafted Tom Segura. Bert Kreischer was already gone. Joe Rogan, obviously first round pick. So had to get a guy to fill my comedian slot. So.
You need it. You always need a comedian. Hey, there's no tight ends in baseball, so we'll see who wins. And we got Scampers in the chat said Coop writing the word baseball on a chalkboard 10,000 times. Baseball.
Like Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I am in the wild today. My lighting continues to change dramatically.
Yeah, it looks like you're in heaven.
Yeah.
And now you're back to earth.
Yeah, back to
back to hell.
Quick trip to heaven. Now I'm back. It was nice. It was nice up there. Yeah.
Let's get into our new segment here, freshman orientation. Coop, we just had the combine. We talked about it a bunch on the show already, but I wanted to hone in on these incoming quarterbacks, these freshmen who are coming into the league, and break them down one by one. Just get some more information as we head into the draft in the next month or two. And I think we have to start off with probably the top two guys, and maybe more specifically, start off with the top one. From Alabama, quarterback from Alabama, had a pretty decent combine. He didn't participate in all of the exercises, but he is probably the clear favorite. I'll have to check FanDuel Sportsbook. Is he the favorite to be the number one overall?
Yeah, the last I checked, he was the only guy that has minus odds. So he's the only guy where you have to pay up to draft him. I think it was like minus 167. So he is still the favorite right now. And I think that, like, because he's got the stats. He obviously went to Alabama, which, very prestigious school.
Probably the best college football program, right? I think it's objective to say at this point.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where, I think when it comes to program, what people forget is that, like, because they're such a prestigious program, are going to have better coaches. They're going to have better facilities. They're going to have better nutritionists. They're going to have guys that are working out the right way. So when you're sitting here,
better, yeah,
exactly. And when you're sitting here deciding between someone like Trey Lance or someone like Bryce Young, like, you don't really know, unless you're intimately familiar with North Dakota State football program. You don't know what kind of coaching this guy has gotten. You don't know if maybe he's gotten bad coaching, if he's developed bad habits. I mean, there's something to be said about maybe a guy that hasn't gotten good coaching has a higher ceiling, because, you could unlock some things with him. But at the same time, like, when you get a guy that has been with Nick Saban for 3 years, learning how to essentially be a professional, because they treat it very seriously there, that you're getting a polished product, right?
Yeah, the Alabama players come out consistently probably more ready for the NFL than other programs. And like you said, it's a testament to the coaching, testament to the the system the coaching staff has set up. When you look at Bryce Young, Coop, how much of a how confident are you in his success? Is he worth the first overall draft pick? Is there risk in taking him there?
I think this guy, the only knock on him that I really see is size, right? Where if he were
let's get his measurements. So he's 5'10", 204 pounds.
That's it.
That's
right there.
I guess that's it. Those are the two things.
Right. And I saw people saying just the fact that he even weighed over 200, people were like, that making jokes that he, is like, he drank 17 gallons of water, or he had like curtain weights in his shoes or whatever.
Vomiting muscle milk outside of the combine, outside of Lucas Oil.
$30 worth of quarters in his pockets. Those are some of the things that, some of the jokes that I was making actually. But anyway, if he were 6'1", 6'2", then there wouldn't even be a question. But there is something to be said for guys that size. I mean, we've had quarterbacks in this league come out and say, "Hey, I'm not as tall. It's harder for me to see over the line. I have to see things differently, make decisions differently." So there is something to be said about that. That is kind of, from what I've seen, that's kind of the one knock. I don't know, Chad.
Durability, probably. Yeah. That's kind of tangential to that, right?
Exactly.
Could get hurt.
Could get hurt, yes. Right. So I don't know, Chad, if you've seen any other knocks on that guy, let us know. I've kind of looked through it, and that's kind of the vibe I get, is that he has everything else in terms of, ability, program, pedigree, fundamentals. It's all there. It's just that he's a smaller guy, but I still think that he's likely to go one, unless the team wants to go crazy and go after Richardson. Or Stroud.
Richardson or Stroud. So yeah, I'll bring up the next guy here, who probably is the other name you have to throw into the consideration here with Bryce Young in terms of the top pick, which is CJ Stroud. He's the other name that has been mentioned ad nauseum throughout the season while waiting for this draft class. Stroud, coming from Ohio State, came in at 6'3", 214 pounds, and also had a pretty decent combine. It was Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson probably had the best combine, just raw performance. But these two guys, they didn't have to participate in as much in order to get that. So I can understand why theirs wasn't as flashy.
Right. And when you look at Stroud, like when you watched the drills yesterday, I have to say there were certain players that you got a vibe from them that they knew they were the best, and they were confident in the drills.
Calm confidence, yeah.
It was
just there. It's like they almost like experience everything like a little bit slower than the other.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that, honestly, that goes back to something that my high school coach told me about when we were doing drills. Like when I was a freshman, the varsity high school coach was down with us, and he was like, he came to me, and I was doing the drills, and I was just trying to do them as fast as possible. You know what I mean? And I was like a slob all over the place. I probably looked like Gumby. And he pulled me aside, and he was like, when you do drills, remember this. He goes, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Right. And I remember the words, like, you slow down, do it right, and you do it 1,000 times, then you're eventually going to do it better than everyone else. Right. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And that's the vibe I got from Bijan Robinson. That's the vibe I got from CJ Stroud, where some of the other guys, especially the running backs, like the lesser known guys, they were just trying to get through these drills as fast as possible, and they were making big mistakes, whereas Bijan was just doing it correctly, and it looked fast no matter what every time. Right.
This lesson really, I really stood out to me growing up whenever I started getting into playing music. And this is you have a similar phenomena with musicians, where more amateur musicians, whether you're singing or playing an instrument, will try to play quicker, or will have a tendency to play quicker than the actual tempo of the song. And it's a way that your brain is like compensating. It's the same as like if you're like good public speakers are kind of the same way. If you are uncomfortable, you tend to talk really fast because you want to get through it, right? You want to like speed it up. You don't want anybody to notice that, right? And in your mind, you experience those like pauses way differently than the audience does. And so you see it in music, you see it in public speaking, and you see it in this. Any sort of like high level skill probably has that same premise of like you're comfortable, you can slow down, you're not trying to compensate.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Stroud looked like there, where he just went out and just made every throw, one after the other. And like Dustin said, people don't really talk about him. And then you saw him out there on Saturday throwing, and you instantly remembered why this guy is one of the
Yeah, he said Friday and Saturday morning, no one was talking Stroud, like he was almost forgotten about. Then he started to throw, and we all instantly remembered how good he was.
Yes. Now the knocks on this guy, again, from kind of going around collecting, this is my collecting stage for me, where it's like, I love having access to all the Debbie guys and all the guys, like, Kevin from the boys, Christian Wilkinson, like those guys, Jeff Bell, right? They get Ray G, they get way into it, and I can kind of
Jordan Richardson is also good.
Exactly. We give them shout outs now because we can stand on their shoulders, right? Like they come to me and for tight end stuff or whatever we do, like we kind of in this industry, you can't do everything on your own. So I go and I kind of collect the things that people are saying. And one of the things I kept hearing was that CJ Stroud, because he was in such a good position at Ohio State, he kind of was untested. And that's what people are worried about, that he had the best weapons, right? You're throwing to Jackson Smith and Jigba and Marvin Harrison Jr., who is supposed to be like the next great, like maybe people are saying he's going to immediately be the best wide receiver in the NFL, right? Like he's got all these guys, so he's untested to a degree. And also he didn't really need to escape the pocket. He didn't really need to scramble. So we didn't get to see enough of it, which is why people are saying the Georgia game was so important. And it was such a great thing to see him have to scramble and to see him face a really good opponent and not have Jackson Smith and Jigba for that game. So I've been told, go back, watch the Georgia game. That'll give you the best idea of what this guy's capable of. But that's what people are scared of. They're scared that this guy was basically just propped up by his weapons and he's just an average quarterback.
We see that. We see that from time to time. Like I was thinking about that with the Russell Wilson situation. I don't know why I was thinking about that this weekend, but I was thinking about how him leaving, I think, is more of an issue of he doesn't really know how to succeed in other situations outside of Seattle, to where like he got so comfortable there, he didn't really learn the fundamental tools to build the culture that he wants or succeed in that system. So now when he gets, has that support system removed or he's removed from it, then he's struggling. And I think that's kind of what you're describing here with Stroud. A lot of people were talking about his smoothness, and that's probably going to be like the main talking point you hear about CJ Stroud. And he lives up to it. I mean, just watching him at the combine, like his intuition, his timing, it seems effortless, which you see from a lot of the elite quarterbacks, right? The Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, who just, it's like they have this sixth sense where you watch it, you're like, how could he have known 5 seconds ago that the ball needed to be right there? Right. It's just like, it's a different level of operation. And he seemed like he at least had the makings of that.
Right. Exactly. And you know what, like from another standpoint, like what teams are doing now, hey, you're concerned about Joe Burrow not having his weapons that he had at LSU, just go get him, right? They just went and got Jamar Chase. It's like, oh, you're worried about the guy can't play without his weapons? Go get him, right? Trevor Lawrence without Travis Etienne, don't have to worry about it, right? So maybe if you're going to take the plunge on CJ Stroud, maybe you trade back up and grab Jackson Smith and Jigba too. Or next year, you make sure you're in a position to grab Marvin Harrison's kid, right? And then now all those concerns about not playing with these players, don't worry about it. It's a new trend in the NFL that it's one of those things where it's like, it sounds stupid, right? It sounds like something we would say, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you just took these two guys from college and they got to play in the NFL? Well, it's working pretty well. The Bengals haven't finished worse than fifth, right? If you really think about it, they're going pretty far, right? They're going to the Super Bowl. They're going to the AFC Championship type games. Like, why not, right? Why not?
I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, the Bengals are probably one of the more positive cases. I appreciate you throwing the Jaguars in there. Trevor and Travis. I think the situation's slightly different in that, like, you could probably, without Travis, I think Trevor would be fine, and vice versa.
But the thing is, like, sometimes
I guess it's the same for the Bengals.
Sometimes it doesn't work, but like for the most part, the couple I've seen that didn't work, it wasn't because the wide receiver didn't work. It was because the quarterback didn't work, right? So like you look at the 49ers, they took C.J. Beathard and his college roommate George Kittle. Well, C.J. Beathard didn't really pan out, but George Kittle's been great, right? Like you look at Washington, right? They took They took the
McLaurin.
quarterback. They took McLaurin after they took the quarterback from Ohio State, who unfortunately passed away this year.
Yeah, Dwayne Haskins.
They took Dwayne Haskins, and then they took Terry McLaurin, right? And that the funny thing is they only took Terry McLaurin because the Colts before that took the other wide receiver, Paris Campbell, before they had the chance, and that worked out pretty well, getting Terry McLaurin, right? So, it might be the new trend in this league. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm with you. So CJ Stroud, I think he had about what you'd expect from him out of this combine weekend. And then the big name that we brought up earlier in the show, Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida, had a stellar combine performance, set records, if I'm not mistaken. He ran a 4.43 40-yard dash, had a 40.5-inch vertical jump, and a 10-foot 9-inch broad jump. Just highly impressive. 6'4", weighed in at 244 pounds and measured in at 6'4". Anthony Richardson is the hot name right now, Coop. What is this hype doing for you? You buying into the smoke? Is he, just from like a raw talent perspective, is Anthony Richardson as good as CJ Stroud and Bryce Young?
So first, two things. One, I have to apologize for the CJ Beathard slander. He just did sign on as the Jaguars backup quarterback, got paid, good for him. So apologize to everyone in the chat. Scampers says no need for the shade. CJ Beathard, good dude. Also, I just wanted, before we get into Anthony Richardson, you said he had a 40.5-inch vertical jump. I decided to look up what the record is because I was like, that's got to be close, right? One guy stands atop the list there with the best vertical ever at 40,
like 70 inches. Something like that. It's like a far and above everybody else.
It is 45 inches. Do you know
he's wearing moon shoes.
You want to take a guess on who it was? It was actually a defensive player.
Oh,
you would probably never guess. I wouldn't have guessed.
Probably not. I was going to guess DK Metcalf, but I know that Anthony Richardson beat DK Metcalf's vertical.
Yeah. Dude, it was Cameron Wake, bro. Cameron Wake at 6'3", 260. He did a 45-inch vertical jump. That is terrifying, bro.
That's wild.
That is terrifying. I bet that guy
Skipper's guess Smoosh Parker.
Yeah, that's like Cameron Wake is like he when he goes swimming in the pool, he just jumps out. Like he doesn't even use his hands; he just jumps straight out of the water. Like that what a freakazoid, man. So, yeah. But anyway, I mean, like the thing with Anthony Richardson is everyone's going crazy about this combine, right? And obviously the 40 time was faster than we thought, but we knew he was fast. I don't think that this combine really changed all that much. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dustin. We'd love to hear Dustin's take on it because he was there. But we knew this guy was a freak athlete. The concern for this guy has been, is he a good quarterback, right? And it's not just the throwing that's the problem. People need to understand that there's more to playing quarterback than just throwing a ball hard, right? Or else Jay Cutler would be the best quarterback of all time. There's there's a mental aspect and there's also a footwork aspect to it where you need to be hitting your marks on all these handoffs, on all these fake handoffs. And if you can't get that part figured out, then it's never going to work because all it takes is one missed handoff, one fumble to kill a drive. If you turn the wrong way and you just have to fall to the ground because you missed the handoff, that kills the drive. So this guy, apparently, he's had less than 500 snaps at quarterback in his career. They say his footwork is all over the place. And they also say that he has trouble putting touch on the ball. So he can throw the ball a million miles an hour, little trouble putting it in tight spaces, kind of lofting it into some of those spots. So
it's a highly useful skill in the NFL. You have a lot more leeway in college for that. So we see that skill matter a bit more when players do get to the NFL. And we see a lot of early rookie quarterbacks struggle in learning how to do that at the next level.
Exactly. If you don't put to throw to that second level beyond the linebackers, but in front of the safeties, you got to have some touch. If you throw it too hard, not enough loft on it, that's a pick six going the other way. Like you have to figure out
or drop ball, missed opportunity.
Yep. If you can't throw the back shoulder fade, in the right way, that your guy turns around at the right time and before the cornerback does, that the timing's there. Like if you can't figure that stuff out, it's never going to work. So
and it's such a monumentally important part of the game at this point, like where we are in just strategy, the NFL, like it's hugely important. It gives your game a whole nother dimension to be able to have a valve out to the side.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that it creates a low floor, but the floor for every quarterback is not an NFL quarterback, right? Like that's the problem with the floor. Same, like he doesn't have any lower floor than the floor is the same as Josh Rosen, right? Just not in the NFL. It's the floor for all.
Tom Brady's floor is like maybe higher than the rest of everybody, but yeah, you're right.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Tom Brady, he's like a genius. I guess like Kevin O'Connell had a good floor because he's such a football genius that he was a backup quarterback that was a coach at the same time and then just became a coach. And now he's already a head coach. But like, I guess some guys have higher floors, but still, like, that's why I'm not too worried about picking him. I'm in favor of it because the ceiling is so high. You look at, I think a really good comp is Josh Allen in terms of prospect, because we knew that Josh Allen, he was basically like, they described him as like a big ball of clay, that if you could take the very raw talent, but if you could take the skill set and mold that into an actual NFL quarterback, he could be awesome. And for the first 2 years, he was exactly what people said. Terrible accuracy, throws the ball way too hard, was basically just a bulldozer. And as a rookie, his completion percentage was 52%. It wasn't even top 40 of quarterbacks. Like every backup quarterback that played a little bit had a better completion percentage than Josh Allen. But once he figured it out, now we're seeing the ceiling. And Woo Lad, is that something special? So Anthony Richardson, I'm willing to take a shot on him, dude, just to see if you can figure it out. And hopefully you have a really good quarterback coach. Hope the team that takes him has one of these quarterback whisperer type coaches, because that would be great for him.
Yeah, I'm with you. If you could take that step up, I think he'll be fantastic. I think there's a lot of risk here still. And joining us now, we got a good friend of the show, Dustin, who's on the show earlier. He was at the Combine, boots on the ground this past weekend, and so he saw a lot of this stuff in person. And I think the biggest thing here with Anthony Richardson what up, Dustin? Welcome in.
There he is.
Morning. Welcome back, guys.
So I want to pose this question to you, Dustin and Coop. I'd love you to chime in on it as well. What is your gut telling you about Anthony Richardson? Because I think this is like he has a lot of the similar signs of like a trap potentially, right? Where like there's a lot of hype, there's not much experience, like you were saying, Coop. What is your gut telling you about Anthony Richardson? Is he the real deal or not?
My gut tells me he needs to learn. Coop, I'm glad you brought up Josh Allen, because that's the best comp for him. Like Josh Allen in college, 56.2% completion percentage.
Terrible.
Richardson's at 54%. So both really terrible, but we saw that Josh Allen can learn and be different. I think Anthony Richardson needs to sit a year. I don't think he's a day one starter in the NFL this year. He may be forced into that, and that may be to the detriment of him. But if he can sit for a year and learn and adjust and work on some of those mechanics, I think he has potential to be Josh Allen. Like, he has that rushing upside. He has the size. When he was standing next to CJ Stroud, it looked – I said this earlier yesterday. When they were standing next to each other, Richardson and Stroud, it looked like the pictures of Josh Allen standing next to Joe Burrow during the whole DeMar incident. Like, both big guys, but one's just broad. Anthony Richardson is just a broad-shouldered, big dude. CJ Stroud looks a lot like Joe Burrow, kind of more of a slender build, but they can both still sling it. But I think Richardson needs to work on that completion percentage, work on his accuracy. But we've seen quarterbacks being able to change. We saw it with Josh Allen. And so that's really the best comp for him. If he goes to the right team with the right coaching staff and can sit, even half a year would be good for him. I think a full year is best. But if, let's say, I think Seattle's a great fit for him. If he can sit behind someone like Geno for a year, if they can tag Geno, and learn from Pete Carroll and learn kind of from Geno that professionalism. He came off really mature in his press conference, so I wasn't really worried about the attitude or any of that kind of stuff. I think he has potential to be really good. I think for dynasty-wise, in my startup drafts, I don't fault someone for taking him at 104.
Yeah.
I like more at the 106, 107, after a couple maybe the running backs and wide receivers, but I think he has potential to be really good in the league.
In Superflex format.
NFL draft.
Oh, in the NFL draft.
I'm saying in the NFL draft, I think he's top 10, but I'm saying in your rookie draft for Dynasty, the 107 pick is where I want to get him, but I wouldn't for 104.
In the NFL draft, he goes 106, 107. He's going to the Panthers or the Falcons. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think NFL draft he goes top 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
So either of those landing spots would be fantastic for him.
Yeah. I like what you said about and it's something that people feel like don't think enough about, which is the professionalism, right? Like, and you use an example like Patrick Mahomes. He got to spend a year behind Alex Smith and watch what Alex Smith did in the meetings and watch how Alex Smith interacted with people and how he interacted with the media and how he carried himself and kept himself in the right light. Like, we've all, say what you will about Alex Smith as a player, we've always thought that he's a consummate professional, right? And we're all rooting for him when he came back from injury. And if you look at the total other side of the coin, look what happened this year with Zach Wilson, where he was immediately thrown in as the starter. And to a certain degree, Mac Jones, where there were questions of maturity and they were coming out and saying the wrong thing and speaking instinctively and saying things to the media that should only be said to the coaches. And that's something that, unless you get that experience behind a pro that has years and years, you're not going to get that. So I think that especially for a guy like Anthony Richardson, where we think he's a little raw, we think he needs to learn, that's the perfect situation. If he could, another spot that I kind of like is behind Jared Goff. 1 year behind Jared Goff over there.
With Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell. Yeah. Goff's contract is set up perfectly. And honestly, if you look at Jared Goff's stats last year, they're identical to what Alex Smith's stats were in his last Pro Bowl year with the Chiefs.
Coincidence?
Right? I think not. I think he was setting himself up to be the next Alex Smith, right? Which, hey, you know what? Alex Smith, he's rich. So there you go.
Dustin, do you have time to talk through one more prospect here?
Yeah, and there's one I want to bring up that you're not going to bring up, and we'll talk about him after whoever you got next.
All right, go ahead, bring up who you got.
Well, let's talk about the professionals. I want to get back to that. Part of it is a lot of these guys were in college, were the big fish in their pond, right? So you talk about Zach Wilson was the big fish at BYU, has always been the big fish. Anthony Richardson wasn't that, right, in his time. So he doesn't come in with that. Like, when you go to an Alabama or Ohio State, not saying that those guys like Young or Stroud have that, but when you're the big fish in your conference, when you're the best guy in the SEC or the best guy in the Big Ten, you come in the league with that, hey, I've always been the big fish. And some people just don't adjust to that. I agree. I think Anthony Richardson is great. I think when we talk about professionalism, this is the guy I want to bring up who had a really great combine was Stetson Bennett. Looked the best throwing. He was
Stetson
throwing.
Bennett?
Yes. Better than Stroud, better than Richardson in the deep ball. Had a really great combine, decent 40 time, measured okay. Impressed us. But I will say the issue is he did not impress us at his press conference. Everyone walked away from his press conference and went, "Oh man, that guy's a jerk. That guy is not cool." But if you give Stetson has won in college and kind of has that hey, I've won 2 national championships, I should be considered a top guy. And had
Stetson
that kind
Bennett out of Georgia. For anybody that doesn't know,
had that kind of I'm a big deal. Treat me as a big deal. I will say, his legal issues got brought up. He gave what I consider kind of a patented, hey, this is what they told me to say, apology. Had a noticeable eye roll. And people walked away and were like, oh, yeah, we don't like this guy. But
apology for what?
He had an eye roll when they were talking about his DUI and all that kind of issue with Stetson Bennett.
I see. Okay.
He was like, yeah, I made a mistake. And then you could tell he noticeably rolled his eyes. He really didn't mean it. It's the way I took it and the way a lot of other people I talked to took it. If you give Stetson Bennett the personality of Will Levis, he's talked about in a top 10 pick. You then have that leadership, you have that maturity, and then you have the giftings and the winning resume where he goes higher. Stetson Bennett, to me, could go second round in the NFL draft or go undrafted. That's a huge range of opportunity, but he could go to a team and he could sit for a couple years. He could go to Minnesota, sit behind Kirk Cousins, and if he's willing to learn from Kirk Cousins, could come in and be a decent NFL quarterback.
The guy you're describing reminds me of a Ryan Mallett. where he just thinks he's like too good.
He
Like
thinks
he's got a Scantron for Ryan Mallett, right? Like he thinks he's
Yeah,
the hotness. And there was another quarterback that actually talked about this. A great example, because we rarely get the example of somebody who recognized that they were that kind of person and changed, which is Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf is on record saying, he's like, when I came out, he goes, I didn't think I needed to work hard. He's like, I thought I was just the best ever. The example he gave is, he goes, I was the kind of dude that I would go to throw something in the trash, and if I would miss the trash, he goes, I wouldn't pick that up, because I'm not picking that up. I'm Ryan Leaf. Somebody else will pick that up. That's what he was like. That was my attitude. Like,
Mama Leaf.
Yeah, he's
But
like, I'm Ryan Leaf. I'm not picking that up, right? And he's like, he's like, had I recognized those flaws earlier, then maybe I would have had a real career, But it's nice to have somebody that was able to turn it over, because most of those type people, they never realize they're a jerk, right? They just go their whole life being like, I'm Ryan Leaf, and I'm the king, and I don't care. Right. But it really is not a good attitude to have. We see a lot in basketball where these guys come out and they were always the biggest guy, and they were always the strongest guy, and they never needed to work on their fundamentals. I mean, people accuse Dwight Howard of that, where he obviously had a great career, but he never really developed any post moves. There was another guy like Greg Oden, for instance, like these guys that were just, they didn't have the drive. So I definitely want guys that are willing to come out and put the work in.
And I'll tell you another team I think he could go to, the Rams. He could sit behind Stafford, learn from Stafford. I think the Rams should also sign Baker, because I think Baker Mayfield had that same kind of mentality when he came out, like, hey, I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm a big deal. But he's shown it. Ryan Leaf took forever. Like, Ryan Leaf had to get out of the league, go rock bottom before he turned. Like, I think we've seen Baker Mayfield have that turn already with his attitude after being let go from the Browns and traded from the Panthers.
Got humbled a little bit.
A mentor for Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, I have a question for you two guys on whether you think this is a viable approach or this is smart or not. What if you were to go to some of these guys, like take Anthony Richardson, for instance, right, and kind of try and take him down a peg and say, like, hey, just want to ask you, like, if it doesn't work out at quarterback, like we know you want to play quarterback, right? Let's say you don't end up being the starter. Are you willing to help this team any way possible? Are you willing to, be a Taysom Hill or be a Logan Thomas, like, and just see how
I'll get you in trouble though. We've seen that, right? We've seen some people get upset about that because it can come across disrespectful in a lot of ways.
Well, that's the thing, is if the guy, but let's say you do that. Let's say you push that button and the guy comes out and goes right to Dustin at the combine, who's standing right there, and he says, "This team just asked me if I'm willing to play tight end. Like, if you're the Saints, does that help you dodge a bullet, or do you think you just messed up? I mean, because you can draft the guy if you want to draft the guy. Like, he can't. There aren't many avenues to defend yourself from being picked in the draft. Do you like? Is that Justin? How do you feel about doing something like that, Justin? Do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea?
You run the risk of them being disengaged, right? Because I think part of that, like, we know the running back shelf life is a lot shorter than a quarterback. And if you're asking, like, tight ends and wide receivers are longer than running backs, but still shorter than quarterbacks. So you run the risk of them going, man, they don't want me for who I am, and they want to change me, right? So you run the risk of disengaging them. But I think there's a fair question to be asking in those interviews of, like, would you, like, not saying we want to, but would you go to tight end? And then, someone like Andrews goes, yeah, I just want to help out. But, like, are they genuine? You have to get that feel. You do run that risk of just, like, them going, yeah, I want to do it. And then you draft them and they get them like, I really didn't want to. I was hoping you wouldn't actually do it. And they just become disengaged, right? And then they're, not plugged in. They're not putting in the work. And then they're gone, right? As soon as their contract's up, they're gone because they don't want to do that. These guys want to be, they've had options to switch to tight end in college, right? Like, I'm sure Anthony Richardson's coach at somewhere was like, hey, we have another good quarterback. Would you move to, tight end? He's like, no, I want to be quarterback, right? Stetson Bennett was a walk-on. And he was like, I'm going to keep going. Stetson Bennett could have moved to be a small running back or a small tight end or something. He's 5'11". He's not huge, but most of the wide receivers in this class are shorter than him anyway. So it's just about, like, they want to do it. They've spent their years. So I think you run that risk of them just becoming completely disengaged with your team if you draft them, if you ask that question.
Before we let you go, Dustin, who's your so assuming you have some combination of Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud as your top dogs, who's your QB4? Is it Bennett? Is it Levis? How you rank? Just give us one name before we let you go.
So it's Will Levis for me.
Okay.
Levis. It's a good pick.
Awesome.
I
Awesome, man.
appreciate all your insight, Dustin, as always.
No problem. Anytime, guys.
Appreciate
Cheers,
you,
brother.
brother.
Thank you, man.
Dustin, great follow. If you aren't already following him, he's always in the chat too, adding advice, adding his perspective. So definitely go follow him at the D Unit 13. Stetson Bennett, I like that name call out.
Right. Yeah, it's great to get somebody on here that was actually there, because that's something that we don't get
until next year.
Yeah, until next year when we go. But the great insight from him is that, like, so you can go and watch the press conferences for Stetson Bennett. You can see the Good Morning America interview, the infamous one where he seemed like hungover or whatever after the national championship.
Oh, that was
right?
him, of course.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
But what you don't get is you don't get to see the reaction around the room, which is what Dustin just gave us, where he basically said that Stetson Bennett answering some of these questions. The other reporters and stuff that were there around the room, there was a lot of eye rolls, there were a lot of murmurs, probably a bit of guffawing, like
Gasps.
this guy, yeah, gasps, or like you don't get that unless you're there at the combine in that room. So it's good to hear somebody who was there tell us, hey, there was not a good reaction to this guy. Whereas when he talked about Anthony Richardson earlier, he said he was cool as a cucumber up there. That he didn't, that just hearing him speak, he didn't see any reason that there would be character concerns. The guy took care of himself, which is good to hear, right? Because obviously he left with impressions on these guys on a personal level, which is always good to have that on the show.
It's underrated. I think a lot of times the public tends to oversimplify like what's happening in these situations where it's very complicated. We're dealing with people, right? Like we're dealing with people, which is very complicated art. And so, get that perspective is useful. It might help you avoid a situation like Zach Wilson, or identify the opposite situations, the positive cases.
Right. Yeah. So it's invaluable. We're going next year. Keith,
we're going.
Book the tickets, book the flights. So we got to touch on a few more of these guys. Another one, this guy, I've seen this guy as high as QB1, QB2. I think I saw Pro Football Focus had him maybe QB2, and that's Will Levis. That's the guy that came out of Kentucky. And the vibes I get from my data collection at this point, from the opinion collection, and this is more of a feeling comp, but the feeling that I get is kind of is actually Jay Cutler. That's the vibe that I'm getting from this type of player, where this guy has a cannon arm, which Jay Cutler famously and stupidly came out and said right after getting drafted by Denver. He said, "I have a bigger arm than John Elway." And everyone was like, "Why would you say that?" And he's like, "Well, it's true. I could throw the ball." He's like,
I meant in length."
Yeah, he literally was like, "I didn't say I was a better quarterback, but I could throw the ball farther and harder than John Elway." Right? And it's just like,
now.
why would you?
John Elway now.
Now, yeah. Why would you say that? It's just like such a ridiculous thing to say. You know what I mean? Like, if you're Mac Jones, you come in and just be like, "I'm better than Tom Brady." It's just the dumbest thing, right? But that's not the reason that he's the comp. The reason that that everything I hear about Will Levis is a comp for Jay Cutler is that he has this cannon arm, but he needs to work on the rest of the fundamentals that surround that. And if you go back and watch Jay Cutler, especially like the game that he threw 5 interceptions to the same player, like he would just throw it off his back foot. He wouldn't get set in the pocket. He wouldn't get a good base, and he relied too much on his arm. So like Jay Cutler would just drop back foot, throw a lazy pass, and it worked a lot of times because he had such a big arm. But the times that he really needed to take his time and get set and throw it in there with a little touch and hit those tight windows, he never took the time to work on those fundamentals, and that's why he made those mistakes. A lot of people are saying that Will Levis has that same problem, that his footwork is not there, his mechanics are not there, and because of that, it can turn into a little bit too much laziness, too much relying on his arm. This is another guy where if you're going to draft him, you have to be confident that your quarterback coach can take with a raw ability, the flamethrower arm, the cannon arm, and can then teach the guy how to actually be a quarterback. Right?
And I think that fit is pretty crucial part of the equation, where looking at quarterbacks for not just their talent and their experience and what they need, but also looking at the team and what they. I brought this up for years to the Washington system, where it for probably the last decade, it doesn't feel like Washington is a good system for quarterbacks, like a supportive system for quarterbacks. It feels like Washington has the mentality of, hey, plug this guy in, like they're gonna either work or not, or they're useless to us. It's what have you done for me now? Basically,
Right.
what are you doing for me now? Mentality, and it's not super supportive. And so, a player who's going to require more development, a bit more investment, a bit more support and safety, it's not going to work on every team. So I like that
Yeah.
call out.
The Titans too. Like, yeah, it's a good. There's some good examples out there. Washington's a great one with Ron Rivera, and like the Titans, like they don't have like if you have a big arm quarterback, they don't really have as of this moment a burner, a field stretcher. They have Chikakonkwo and Traylon Burks. They don't really even throw a whole lot. Like you want to, I hope he goes to a team that's going to utilize that skill set, right? Guys where they're just chucking bombs, you know. So it'll be interesting to see if a team, for me, for fantasy football purposes, with most of these guys, my policy is if a team is willing to spend up on them, I'm in. If they fall the way that Desmond Ridder did, the way that Malik Willis did,
the way that Laramie Tunsil did.
Well, Laramie Tunsil still win the first round. Yeah,
find any reason to bring up Laramie Tunsil in this conversation.
If there's a reason they fell, you know, like a gas mask, then maybe I'll consider that. You know, like I mean, there's a reason Tyreek Hill didn't go in the second round like he was supposed to. But the thing is, it's like it's an indictment that Malik Willis, every team passed on him twice, right? Like every team had the chance to draft Malik Willis if they wanted him. Whereas some of these other teams, you know, maybe there was only one team that was willing to draft Josh Allen, and he would have slid really far if the Bills didn't take him. But one professional scouting staff did say, this is the guy, right? So if these teams are willing to draft Will Levis at 4 overall, who am I to sit here and say, oh, well, they're completely wrong, and I know more than them? Like, I just need that for any of these guys. If they get that capital, I'm willing to move them up. Now, if he is a guy that falls to the 3rd round, then maybe I'll still take a shot on him, but it's a huge hit to the confidence level that even through the 2nd round, teams had a chance and said, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, Malik Willis, too, was a much different prospect. I mean, he didn't go to Penn State. He didn't, you know, he went to Liberty. Like I feel like Levis, the entire class that we have this year is probably going to be above where Malik Willis was coming in as the top quarterback in his class.
Yeah, I think you're. He'll be. I think there's a good chance we get a bunch of quarterbacks in the first, because there's an entire division that needs quarterbacks, right? Like every team in the NFC South would use a quarterback. So I don't think some of these guys are gonna slide too far. Is there anybody else on your radar? I mean, some of these guys are tough because, like, for instance, Hendon Hooker is another interesting name from Tennessee, but he recently had surgery, right? So he wasn't available. I don't think he was there at all. I don't think he was even there answering questions, as far as I know. Maybe he was, and I just didn't see him. But we didn't get anything that moves the needle on that front, you know.
Yeah. There's definitely some more information to be had there. It feels like there's a pretty decent tier drop off after Will Levis.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Okay, so Dustin said he was there. Yeah, there is a drop off. Like from what I've seen with Hendon Hooker, he tore his ACL in November. The criticisms of Hendon Hooker are more in line with what you see for typical mobile quarterbacks, where they basically say he cares too much about running, right? Like he's scrambling around not to throw but to run, which is the classic indictment on.
It's just like a crutch. It can be a crutch.
Right. Like he's just waiting to run is what he's doing. Like he's not scrambling. He's not scrambling to extend the play and potentially pass the way Mahomes does. He's looking for a reason to run, which that is a problem. That is problematic. It is, because it gets you in big trouble in the NFL, where that works when you're at Tennessee and you're in some gimmicky college offense that, you know, they hold up a picture of a duck and that's the play call. But in the NFL, and then you're just faster and bigger than everybody else. So, you know, you snap the ball and you schoolyard scramble around. Kyler Murray has this problem where he schoolyard scrambles around thinking it's going to work.
Everything's a duck to him.
Right. But like now you're playing in the permanent all-star league. where every single person you're playing against was the best player on the other team. Like when you're at Tennessee, basically now you're in the NFL and you're playing against all stars, where the one guy that might have been giving you trouble, that's just now one of the players on this team. So you can't really just make magic happen like that unless you are supremely special. And I'm not sure Hendon Hooker is. So he in particular has me a lot more worried than a guy like Anthony Richardson.
And I think that's fair. I think he should. That makes a ton of sense. And in the chat, Dustin said, I talked to the prominent TV guy and we talked Dynasty. Prominent TV guy. Guy's big into TV, loves watching it. He said I should take Bijan Robinson at 101 and then move back into the first round and take Hooker in my Dynasty rookie draft.
Bijan 101. Wow, that's a
interesting. Ain't no way I'm moving up into my first round rookie draft to take a QB.
Especially if it's single. Is that
in a one
flex?
QB, yeah.
Because that might be, if that's a super flex league.
I don't know that Hooker lasts till the back of the first round.
And also,
flex, maybe
Bijan at 101 is kind of controversial in super flex.
It is, yeah.
It's quarterbacks are crazy valuable in those formats. But hey, if he likes Hendon Hooker, let's just put it this way: guys like Hendon Hooker, if they work at the NFL level, they're going to be great in fantasy football because we want guys that want to run. We want guys that say, I'm running, because 100 rushing yards is worth 10 points and 100 passing yards is worth 2, right?
Unless you play in the original fantasy football league, in which case
and then the rules are
kickoffs are like 25 points.
If you run like a kickoff, then you just win. You just automatically win. I think it was like 100 points. Touchdowns were 6, no points for yards or anything. That's a good format. I love that format.
We were in a meeting the other day with our guy Rob from FanDuel, and we were talking about some different video ideas to do. And he's like, "Yeah, you could do like, I don't know, like history, like first fantasy football league." And I'm like, well, just so happened to be very knowledgeable in that one.
Yeah, and it was terrible.
And it was awful.
Yeah,
but what a good story.
Yeah.
Well, we went over a bunch of the maybe the top 5 QB prospects coming in this segment of freshman orientation. We're going to keep doing these throughout the week, breaking it down by position, running backs tomorrow, wide receivers the next day. Almost forgot what day it was, and tight ends on Thursday. So stay tuned with us. Come back tomorrow if you want to keep talking draft prospects.
And guess what? We have a special guest for the Thursday.
Oh, true.
Thursday tight end day. We have Brandon Huffman coming in from CBS. He's an analyst all over the place, got like 100,000 followers on Twitter. And not only is he going to come in and talk tight ends with us as an actual scout, but he himself played tight end back in the day. So we are bringing in you cannot miss the tight end. So I told him I'm a big tight end guy. I said, we're going to ask him a bunch about tight ends. And he is all for it. He's all fired up for it. So you got to come in.
What's the over-under on me saying tight end Tinkler
when
he's on?
You better not embarrass me in front of my new friends. Okay?
It's going to be the first thing I say.
I guarantee you will find
many
many
think
ways.
Of anything else.
I guarantee you will find many ways to embarrass all of us. So yes, stick with us for that. That's the big thing on Thursday. Another big thing coming up tonight. We have a new thing on the Bettor Network. It's called the Bettor Cast. It's night premiering at 7 p.m. and it's you're going to be able to watch, play, and you can win stuff by answering predictive questions and trivia questions about tonight's featured matchup. Have fun chatting with our community while we watch the Southern Conference Championship game. Bettor Cast tonight, featuring a different live event every night. And then after that, obviously, join us for Edward Rouse. He'll be doing his Monday night rants. It's always fun to watch Edward. Like I like going on that show, and I like betting with him. He had to wear a Blink 182 outfit because last time we beat him. But he always bets on a bunch of games, and then he sweats them out on the show live. So it's always fun watching him watching baseball, watching basketball, watching hockey, and just sweating out these ridiculous prop bets, which is just begging a guy to get one more rebound. Right? It's always a good time watching somebody sweat out a good bet. So yeah, check out Edward Rouse tonight, Monday Night Rants. Good times, baby.
Big facts. So coming up, we got some questions from Reddit that we have to answer. You're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on the Bettor Sports Network.
Front Yard Fantasy with Simon, JL, and Coop.
Sell me on doing away with the 2 conference system in the NFL.
Is it really a sale whenever this is something that's commonly agreed upon? I'm selling you on water being wet. I'm selling you on something that is objectively true right here. We look at teams at the end of the season and we go, how the hell does one team have such an easy schedule while another team is just absolutely getting obliterated? And that's because of the 2 conference system, because the division system feeds into this conference system. It's a symptom of the greater problem. Like these divisional matchups, you're telling me it's fair that the Buccaneers are in the playoffs after playing the Panthers twice, the Falcons twice, and the Saints twice this year? That is unbelievable. There are multiple more deserving teams every single year that because of this system where we silo them into random groups, it determines the order. And yes, originally this was geography based, right? We had these divisions, they were geography. It's 2023, my dudes. Geography doesn't matter whenever it comes to the size of the United States. These teams can travel anywhere. They don't need to geographically locate them in divisions or conferences to make the games make more sense. If USC can be in the Big Ten, why the hell can't Miami play San Francisco every year? It can happen. They've got more money than these colleges and they're not taking classes. All it does is create an ecosystem where less talented teams can get rewarded for playing in weaker divisions and more talented teams are punished for continuing to improve.
Damn, bro.
Drop the mic.
I like to picture some geography teacher out there just threw a pen on the ground. He was like, how dare you? He smacked the globe. He was like, what do you
all
mean?
the hard work we've done.
2023 geography doesn't matter, right? Smacks his
You know
globe.
how long it took for us to get respect?
Globe goes spinning around, right? Geography doesn't matter. How dare
I'm
you?
just imagining they ripped on the world map and underneath is algebra 2. Like they just go straight into being a math teacher.
Yeah.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray. Weekdays at noon Eastern, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Paper straws. Oh, they're so bad, Ray. I mean, I'm almost tempted to say screw Mother Earth. Give me a real straw. The paper straw thing is a step too far in saving the planet for me.
It's a great idea. The problem is it has to last. Like it can't go mushy halfway through my drink.
That's
And
the
I think
problem.
That's the problem. They have a hard time standing up if you don't drink that.
100%. That's my issue, Ray. I'm all for taking care of the only planet we got. But Ray, some people like to drive a lot. I don't. I don't get on them for they have to drive 20 minutes to work every day. Can I just get a plastic straw? Like, I think, Ray, we should be able to pay for a card that says, I don't drive every day, so they said I could have this kind of environmental impact by getting a plastic straw. I am in favor, Ray, of government-issued plastic straws if I have the proof that I'm worthy of such. If you want it, you get it. It's kind of like the clear pass. You know,
Yeah,
at the
there you go.
airport.
Okay.
Like, Ray, I'd be willing to pay an extra $2 a year, and I get as many plastic straws as I want when I go out to the restaurant.
And the $2 goes toward cleaning the oceans or something. So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. That's not a terrible idea. Not terrible.
Call, chat, enter contests in real time. It's Sports Talk 3.0 with Bettor Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. We're here. We're Front Yard Fantasy. Welcome in. We're glad you're here hanging with us. Hey, if you're enjoying this, you know we do this a lot more on our YouTube channel all the time throughout the week, playing games, talking fantasy, talking football.
Oh yeah. Usually there's another guy. I forget his name.
Sean. No.
There's another guy named Sean. He has like
Shaban. No.
Shaban.
Saman.
Shaban.
Simone.
It's Simone. Yeah, and he wears like a jean jacket and he has a bunch of strange hats. And
That's
he
cool.
comes on every once in a while too. Yeah.
Seems pretty confident in himself.
Yeah. It's been a while
You're
since
frozen
I've
on my
seen-
screen, Coop, and I was terrified that when I stopped talking, you were going to be gone.
Oh, then you'd have to answer.
And then it'd
that
just
in
be the
questions
Hogs.
It's just the Hogs. Just 2.0.
It's 2.0 Hogs.
2.0, y'all.
Well, we are
Dave-
answering Reddit's
Simon in the chat
questions
says Dave, Sean, and 2.0.
on 2.0. Dave. I almost I had such a immediate turnaround with that to where I have already texted a friend Dave, like addressing him as the name Dave. That's how quickly I started to put that into use.
Okay, just calling people Dave. It is a great made up name. Just a quick one. Just throw a Dave at him.
Kind of reminds me of that scene in Parks and Rec. You ever watch Parks and Rec?
Yeah, I love that show.
Where Ron's like, he's like, yeah, sometimes I like to call my coworkers by a different name when I feel like they're getting a little too comfortable with with our friendship.
Getting a little too chummy and just
Getting a little too chummy. Just throws that into the mix.
Just take them down a peg. That is amazing. You think you're friends with somebody and then they just call you the wrong name.
It's like, oh shoot. That'll happen every once in a while to me where I'll get a John. Someone who I know decently well, but like it just never came up between us that, my friends don't call me John. That's not something I typically like pops in my mind as my name. And so it will happen.
That'll actually happen to me with my first name too, where like I'll go on to like a podcast and it's like when it's like the boys or like people I know or whatever, they're just like, oh yeah, we're having coupon or whatever. But then every once in a while I'll go on a show with people that like I don't really know and they'll just be like,
yeah, you like know, but don't really know.
Yeah, right, exactly. And they're like, that's a great point, Andrew. I'm like,
excuse me?
Yeah, good point, Andy. Right? Like,
no, that was me, Coop, who said that.
Yeah, it's like if your last name's Cooper, like you really don't have a first name.
Yeah, I love that my parents set me up for basically always having a 2-step introduction process. Because now every single time I either get what was that? Or JL or John Luke. There's always an explanation, or they'll call me John. I have to do hey, by the way.
Right. Your name's Jail?
Yeah, I like that. It's like they gave me a little bit of homework every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Mine's the opposite, where it's like one beautiful thing about my name is that nobody ever asked me how to spell it. Like, and some people like
Andrew.
Some people naturally, they'll be like on the phone, they'll naturally be like, I'll be like, my name's Andrew Cooper. They'll be like, how do you spell that?
And they're like with an IE. You're like,
yeah. They just always ask how you spell it, and then I just wait a second, and then they're just like, oh, never mind, I have it. Or I'll just be like, exactly how.
Never mind, that's one of like the top 5 most common names that I've heard in my whole life.
How do you spell that? Exactly how you think. You know what I mean?
Exactly how you've read it.
Like with some people, exactly. I guess Andrew Jones kind of threw us all for a loop. All the Andrews with the UW at the end.
The UW, yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge setback for the Andrew community, right? But yeah, for the most part,
I felt like it was a level up. Now you guys are getting the whole Andrew community was getting a little more diverse.
Yeah. And Keith in the chat saying, "Well, Archie Special Coop, people can't even spell my first name." Yeah.
What is this first name?
Keith.
Producer.
Producer. Yeah, last name is Keith. First name
producer MF and Keith.
Stone Cold Keith.
Stone Cold Keith. Well, Reddit's got a bunch of questions for us. We're about to get into our next segment here where we answer them. We answer Reddit. Coop, Reddit is your home, very far away from home. So I know that you love this segment very dearly.
Yeah, Reddit with me, like especially if you go and check out I post over there on the fantasy football subreddit, just sort by top week, you'll see like 7 of my articles over there. Just saying, but
nice.
It is really cool, dude. So,
sweet, bro.
But the thing with me and Reddit is like it really is like the relationship you have with like your brother or sister, where like
You say with your blog or your sister?
No, your brother. Yeah, your blog. No, your brother. it is kind of a blog. Yeah,
it's like I don't know, similar to like your blog or your sister. You know,
Reddit's kind of like a blog to me, or like my sister. But no, like, it's where it's like they like me, but at the same time they also hate me, and they love giving me a hard time. You know what I mean? They love arguing.
Just describe Reddit's relationship with literally everyone.
Exactly. It is kind of like your sister. It's like I love Reddit, but I'm not sure Reddit loves me back. I think they might.
Reddit loves nobody.
Yeah, they like that I'm there, but they also it's like you're good buddies too, where it's like you invite them over, but then you're mean to them. Like that's how
you're annoyed that they're asking for water.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't drink my water without asking.
Yeah, it's like your best friend. Yeah, you invite him over so that you two can be mean to each other for a couple hours. That's what Reddit is. Yeah. So let's help Reddit with some of their questions because they need.
All right. The first question Reddit has for us: what is the biggest design flaw of the human body?
Ooh, I mean, there are some pretty big flaws. I mean, the way my back's been hurting lately. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, toes.
Oh,
how did we get to that design? Why was that the final product?
why does it hurt so bad when you stub your toe? Like you would think that evolution
Or
through
plug
the
your
years,
nose hair. Pluck your nose hair, not plug your nose hair.
if it wasn't for toes, we'd see a lot more Michael Thomas on the football field, right?
That's
Like,
a good point.
He stubbed his toe 3 years ago, and we haven't seen him since.
That's now that you say it that way though, Coop, I kind of get it. I get it a little bit more because I want to destroy the earth when I either stub my toe or hit my head on the corner of a cabinet.
Bro, when you hit your
Those two
head,
things will incite just crazy violence in me.
well, I swear, when I sometimes when I just like hit my head on like a low hanging thing, or I stub my toe, there's that brief second where I just go, my life's over. Like there's no sense. There's no sense living. There's no sense going on, right?
I have the immediate reaction to like hurt myself further by taking my anger out on it. I'm like, I'm gonna go run into the fridge right now.
Exactly. Like, oh, yeah. I have to honestly though, it is like that. Like, and my wife's like that too. Like, if she hits her head on something, her immediate thought is, I need to be mean to my husband for a couple.
I need to say mean things to.
I'm the same way though. I'm like, oh.
I like to think that they're totally unrelated. It just happened to be what she was thinking. It just came out.
Oh, I've hit my head and now everything is awful. Yeah, I mean, but there's so many more terrible flaws. Why does everybody in the world need to have their wisdom teeth surgically removed?
Yeah, what the heck happened there?
Yeah, I actually,
goof.
So somebody gave me an explanation once that made a lot of sense. Is that the evolutionary trait that has caused that is that our brains are now bigger than they used to be, and the consequence.
That sounds like super American way to describe explain anything. It's because it's bigger now.
Because everything bigger in Texas, dude. My brain's too big for my teeth. Like that's literally what's happening.
Now brain's too big. Now you can't do stuff with your teeth.
Yeah. Tim makes a good one in the chat here. Sweating is nonsense. That should be manual, not automatic.
Manual. Oh, you got like a little like a temperature gauge. I'm heating up. I'm heating up. Somebody better start turning the crank.
Apparently, Prince Andrew can do that. He doesn't sweat. He's got the manual sweat. He doesn't sweat, but if he wants to, he can.
Wild. And Dustin said Freddie Mercury of Queen had extra wisdom teeth and didn't get them removed because he was afraid it would change his voice. Yeah, I mean, his high range is not possible without the shape of his massive mouth.
I imagine that might have gotten painful at times. I don't think Freddie Mercury is a good gauge for what a normal person might do.
Definitely not.
I would say that he is I'm not sure I'm not sure how the scale works, but he's towards the end of it.
He's on an island alone. He's this outlier.
Yeah, he's an outlier.
Enigma of humanity.
Not a good judge of what you should be doing. I had my wisdom teeth out, dude. Like when I was a kid, my dad, our insurance only covered it if I had 4 impacted wisdom teeth. I only had 2. So he turned to me and was like, hey, if you get your wisdom teeth out while you're awake, I'll buy you a pair of sneakers. And I was like, 2 pairs of sneakers. And he goes, duh.
4 pairs of sneakers.
Yeah. So I got my wisdom teeth out while I was awake, which was a horrifying experience. But I got the sickest pair of Iversons and a pair of Adidas Superstars. So at the end of the day.
And 2 pairs of Air Force Ones.
Yeah, right. Well, no, I only got 2 pairs, not 4. 2 pairs. The thing is, it did traumatize me a little bit for a long time, but I did get sneakers, so it worked out pretty well. That's parenthood. That's parenthood 101 right there. Parenting 101.
Parenting 101. Biggest design flaw of the human body. I feel like we could talk forever about this. The tongue. Why is it so easy for me to bite my own tongue? Riddle me that.
That's another one that's just brutal. Biting your cheek too, like awful.
Just think like you're tasked with designing a system for like food intake on the human body, and you're like, let me put this giant worm in there.
Yeah.
That is just all in the dangerous machinery. It's just flailing around, moving things, and that's how they taste.
It is crazy, and there's no one out there that's like, oh, I've never bitten my tongue. Like that's not even an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Farting. Actually, that seems like it's perfectly designed. Because if farting wasn't as funny as it is, it'd be real sad.
It could be worse. It could be
Yeah.
way worse, dude.
All right, I
that's
think
a
we
good-
answered that one. That was a really good one. I like that one.
That's a good question.
Reddit asked us, Coop, what movie did you just not get?
Just not get though. So there's different ways to approach this question, because there are movies that I truly did not understand, even when I went
Any international films.
without subtitles.
Yeah.
There are movies I truly did not understand, even when I went back and read about. Like, I watched the movie, then I was like, "What did I just watch?" And I read the explanation, and then it's like, I questioned if I. Okay, I'll give one example. I watched the movie Donnie Darko, and then
I
I
love
went.
Donnie Darko.
Then I went and read the explanation, and I had to like go back and be like, "Is this an explanation for Donnie Darko 2 or something?" Like, this was the movie
You still didn't get it.
This is the movie I just now watched, right?
You're
honestly, I was
like Michael Scott, where he's like, explain it to me like I'm 5.
I'm
explain
not
it to
even
me
kidding.
like I'm 3.
I'm not even kidding. I turned the TV back on and had to check to see if I watched the right Donnie Darko, because the explanation made no sense to me.
How'd you do it? You just like skip through?
That movie makes sense to you, Donnie Darko?
It did, but I haven't watched it since high school, and I actually don't remember a ton. I just remember I really liked it.
Yeah, that
My
movie.
memory's not very good.
Yeah, I also watched another movie that was the most complex and strange movie I think I've ever seen. Have you ever seen or heard of the movie Primer?
Primer? I don't think so.
Primer is a independent film from 2004, and it looks like an independent film. You can tell it's a very low budget film, but it's a time travel movie, and you don't know it's a time travel movie until like halfway through. But by the nature of time travel has been happening the entire movie, and then
one of
you literally,
those.
yeah. So you literally have.
Good?
So I think it's good, but it's very
Because I
specific.
think it's good.
Yeah, it's like Simon describing the book Infinite Jest, where you have to like read like a
Foster
separate
Wallace.
book. Yeah, you have to read a separate book while you're reading the book. Like, you have to read like you know what I mean, like the explanations of everything.
Yeah,
like,
it's basically a Shakespeare effect.
yeah, like if you're gonna get into Primer, I'll tell you this: you have committed to watching it twice, because you couldn't possibly understand
Or watching it once and not understanding it.
Yes, exactly. If you watch, if anyone can watch Primer one time and be like, "Oh yeah, now it all makes sense," like, then you're a genius or you're a crazy person. But
Better Boss in the chat said Eternal Sunshine on the Spotless Mind.
Ooh.
What didn't you get about that, man?
Yeah,
That's a
dude.
good
The color of her hair represents her feelings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Frodo Baggins. Now that actually is one of my favorite movies. It's so good.
Keith brought up the movie Eraserhead, which
You're
I've
not
never seen
supposed
that.
to get Eraserhead. It's David Lynch.
Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I've seen Eraserhead.
Is it worth watching? I've never watched it.
It's weird. Have you ever watched David Lynch?
I don't know if I've ever seen any David
Go
Lynch.
after the show. Go watch. Go look up The Alphabet by David Lynch. It's a very short film, and
Recently,
it will tell you what you need to know.
Keanu Reeves recently did a AMA, Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and he said a director that he would want to work with is David Lynch.
Really, that would be sweet. He's crazy smart, but very weird. Very weird dude.
Does he have anything that's normal? He did Twin Peaks.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. A movie I just did not get. Man, there's been a bunch. I feel like this is going to hit me later on in the day, where there's like a bunch that kind of come flooding back. I'm trying to think of like one that most people enjoyed that I didn't really connect with.
Yeah, I mean, I could give another one quick recent one that I should have. Going into it, I was so excited to watch it because I loved In Bruges, which has basically the same actors. I didn't really vibe with the Banshees of Inisherin.
Oh, yeah, I just watched that this past week.
Yeah, and the thing is, I could see why people liked it, right? And I could, there were definitely parts where I was like, "Oh, that's humorous," right? It wasn't like there was no real parts where I was like, "Ah, ha, ha, ha." You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, that was interesting," but like, I don't know.
It's one of those movies where it's all about the dynamics of the people. and the characters, right? It's like, and that can come across almost boring because it's like it's just these people talking. But like some of the best plays, like Waiting for Godot, for instance, is a very famous play, and like the whole premise of the play is two guys waiting for something. It's the entire thing, and like you have pieces of art like that where it's focused on that, and that was definitely one of those movies.
The thing is, I do like those movies. Like I liked 12 Angry Men, which is just 12 guys in a room. There was a recent famous movie that was basically just a guy who was an ambulance paramedic, like talking on the headset, and the whole movie is him just like talking on a headset. But like I like those movies. This particular one, I didn't vibe with it. I think the problem that I had, it's not that I didn't get it. And I'll admit the problem was me. I wanted it to be In Bruges 2. That's what I wanted. I wanted In Bruges 2, and I got this other movie that I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted. So it is my fault. That is my fault. But still,
that's fair.
Didn't jive with it. Did you think of any that you didn't like? Dustin says All Dogs Go to Heaven.
All Dogs Go to Heaven. The Fountain.
Then a bunch of bad dogs go to hell, so they all go to heaven, or just I guess it is I just did mess with the premise. Dustin, you're not wrong on that.
Well, I feel like we answered that one pretty well. At least you did, Coop. I didn't really answer it. But that's how it goes. We'll answer some more Reddit's questions at another time. Thank you guys for joining us today. That's going to be it for us, the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. We'll be back tomorrow and every weekday going forward to the end of time from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern time. But stick around here on the Bettor Sports Network. Got a ton of good content coming out. And check out our YouTube channel, Front Yard Fantasy. Tons of good content, live shows going on. But until tomorrow, we will see you then. Goodbye.
Oh. 2.0, y'all.